Admitting to brutally killing 4 University of Idaho students, Bryan Kohberger is set to learn his fate.
Re-entering society is forever foreclosed.
The 2.5-year saga ends with families divided.
We'll never see this as justice.
We support the plea agreement 100%.
Today, for the first time, they will get to speak directly to the man who killed their children.
Sometimes it brings a sense of relief.
One family says they won't be in court at all and just want to move on from this nightmare.
He's tucked in my heart and my soul, and you really have to work at moving forward.
As the victims are remembered, the big question today, will their killer explain his motive? And any minute now, a hearing is set to begin in Boise, Idaho, where Bryan Kohberger, the man who pleaded guilty to killing 4 University of Idaho students, will be sentenced. You're looking live outside the courthouse this morning, where people have started lining up since last night to get inside. Ethan Chapin, Zana Kernodal, Christy Gonzalez, and Madison Mogen were found stabbed to death in a home just off campus in November 2022. Just a month before his trial was set to begin, Kohberger agreed to a plea deal to avoid the death penalty. Thanks for joining us this morning for this special coverage on this Wednesday. I'm Mimi Jung. As soon as that hearing begins, we'll take you there live and we'll bring you team coverage and analysis all throughout the day. But first, Sebastian Robertson takes a look at how we got here.
The morning of November 13th, 1122 King Road, a college home off the University of Idaho's campus, is now a crime scene. The center of public attention after, by sunrise, 4 students would be found dead, a killer on the run.
We've told the public very clearly from the beginning that we believe it was a targeted attack.
Bryan Kohberger eluded authorities for a month, perhaps longer, had he not left behind a single speck of DNA on a knife sheath found near the scene. In 2.5 years, the murder weapon has never been found.
We continue looking for what we believe to be a fixed blade knife used in the murders.
As the FBI and local law enforcement work the case, the student body mourned the loss of 4, Ethan, Zana, Madison, and Kaylee.
There's not answers, and people are scared, and they're hurting.
3 weeks after their deaths, the community gathered for a vigil on campus.
Safety is at top of mind as a killer has yet to be caught.
On a snow-covered day in November, warmth was found inside the memorial.
We are eternally grateful that we spent so much time with him. Time is precious and it's something you can't get back.
In early December, a break in the investigation. Law enforcement issued a bolo for a 2011 Hyundai Elantra. It was captured in surveillance footage near the crime scene before and speeding off after the murder.
Bryan, what are you doing?
Police used the DNA found on scene on the knife sheath and through genetic genealogy, school records, and cell phone data, tied a 28-year-old WSU criminology student to the scene of the crime. Days before the new year, an FBI tactical team swarmed Kohberger's family home in Pennsylvania. He was eventually extradited to Idaho in January of 2023. We'd later learn Kohberger went to great lengths to hide his crimes. He meticulously cleaned his Elantra, leaving no evidence inside. But prosecutors believed they had enough by May of 2023 when they charged him with 4 counts of first-degree murder.
These murders have shaken our community, and no arrest will ever bring back these young students. However, we do believe justice will be found through the criminal process.
Kohberger initially pleaded not guilty. His public defenders prepared to fight the death penalty case in court. And after years of motions and delays, an unexpected guilty plea last month ended the trial before it started.
Are you pleading guilty because you are guilty?
Yes.
The self-admitted killer will likely spend the rest of his life behind bars as the family and community wait to learn why.
And President Trump has even weighed in on the case. We'll get to that in just a second. But first, we understand the hearing is beginning right now inside the Ada County Courthouse. Let's take you there live right now. Waiting for that feed to come up. We know that Bryan Kohberger appears to be in some sort of orange jumpsuit, which is the first time he is not in regular clothing. We've got Jake Wittenberg as we wait to see that hearing begin outside the courthouse. Jake, you've been there all morning long. There's been so much media attention on this case from the very beginning. It's no surprise that as this case comes to a close today, that so many people lined up trying to get inside to be a part of this hearing, right?
Yeah, no, Mimi, that's exactly right. We saw people in the front of this line waiting to get here into the Ada County Courthouse since 5 o'clock last night. In fact, overnight, there were several people that put tents out to secure their place in line. And deputies had to come out and clear that area because there was so many people that were wanting to get a spot in line. In the end, they gave out 50 tickets for those who wanted to enter the courtroom. The courtroom itself holds about 100, we're told, inside there. So presumably about 50 people with the family, including prosecutors and those the like who have connections to these students that were so tragically lost in 2022. Today is a day of reckoning, Mimi. This is all about the families. This is a chance for them to for the first time, stare Kohberger, look at him, talk directly to Kohberger in the courtroom to talk about the grief and despair that he caused in their lives. What will they say? It's likely to be a mixture, of course, of sadness and grief, but also frustration. As you know, there's been major frustration in recent weeks, especially from the family of Christy Gonzalez about this plea agreement and the fact that the death penalty was taken off the table. Speaking of that, I do have a few moments from earlier this morning when we did see families enter the courtroom. To begin, we saw the Mogen family and the Kernodal family make their way into the courthouse through a variety of entryways. For the most part, it was peaceful, and we're expecting to hear from them later. Let's get it into that hearing, which is now getting underway here at the Ada County Courthouse.
Also, Ms. Taylor, Ms. Massoth, Ms. Barlow. The state is represented by Mr. Thompson, Ms. Jennings, Mr. Hurwitz, Mr. Nye, and Ms. Allen. This is the time set for sentencing in this case. The defendant previously entered a plea of guilty to 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of felony burglary. In exchange, the parties stipulated to recommend a sentence consisting of, on burglary, 10 years fixed, on each of the 4 counts of first-degree murder, life fixed. The parties waived pre-sentence investigation. To my understanding, neither party submitted a sentencing memorandum or other materials for the court. The court is familiar with the file and the evidence submitted previously by the parties as it has reviewed them throughout the case and in anticipation of trial. Is there any legal cause why sentence should not be imposed at this time?
No, Your Honor.
Does the state, before impact statements and arguments, wish to present evidence today?
Your Honor, the state does not intend to present evidence in a documentary sense. We have provided the court through the clerk with photographs that we would like to use during the course of our sentencing argument.
Sure. All right.
Thank you.
But no testimony other than impact statements?
That's correct, Your Honor.
All right, so with that, let's start with then impact statements.
Ms. Jennings will be introducing
In my understanding, just so I'm clear, I had indicated through the trial court administrator that we needed to see if any of the victims wish to have the camera not running and audio only. And my understanding is all of them indicated they are fine with the video. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor, that's correct.
All right, very well. Go ahead, Ms. Jennings.
Your Honor, the first, and we're taking these in the order, victim impact statements in the order that the charges were listed in the indictment. The first charge being burglary. So we will have Bethany Funk's statement, and she has asked that her friend Emilia Lott read that statement.
All right, any objection to that?
No objection.
All right, very well.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'll be speaking on behalf of Bethany, and so, yeah, here it reads. My name is Bethany Funk, and I was roommates with Maddie, Kaylee, Zana, and Ethan. I not only lost some of my best friends, but I also lost a sister. Never in a million years would I have thought that something like this would have happened to my closest friends. I thought that we were going to wake up and go upstairs, see them and tell them how they had scared us and that they were going to tease us about how we are constantly scaredy cats. I make jokes about it as we would go to Taco Bell like always. But sadly, that is not what happened and what turned out to be my worst nightmare. When I first woke up that morning, I had no idea what happened. I woke up around 7 with a terrible toothache, so I called my dad, who is a dentist, and he asked what I should do. He told me to take Advil, so I did, and I went back to sleep. I was still out of it and still didn't know what happened. If I had known, I of course would have called 911 right away. I still carry so much regret and guilt for not knowing what had happened and not calling right away, even though I understand it wouldn't have changed anything, not even if the paramedics had been right outside the door. I was so frantic that morning and scared to death, not knowing what had happened. And when I made the 911 call, I couldn't even get out the words. And from then on, I don't remember a thing. It was like my brain wiped that whole memory. That was the worst day of my life. And I know it always will be. While I was still in shock, trying to process the fact that my friends were truly gone, I had been attacked by the public. I was grieving, numb, and unsure of what had happened was even real. And at the same time, I was getting flooded with death threats and hateful messages from people who did not know me at all or know the dynamic of our friendship. Social media made it so much worse, and strangers made up stories to entertain themselves. The media harassed not just me, but also my family. People showed up at our house. They called my phone, my parents' phones, other family members' phones, and we were chased while I was still trying to survive emotionally and grieve the loss of my friends. I hated and still hate that they are gone, but for some reason, I am still here and I got to live. I still think about this every day. Why me? Why did I get to live and not them? For the longest time, I could not even look at their families without feeling sick with guilt. I did not know what to say or what to do. I was terrified that my presence just made their pain worse. And I was still here when their kid, their siblings and their friends, their loved ones should have been here instead. After everything happened, I was afraid to go into my own backyard or alone in my house. I was scared that the person who did this would come for me next. I was always scared that the media would try to catch me at any moment of any day, even when I was just walking around my house. I made my parents close all the blinds during the day so no one could see me even in the slightest chance. I barely left the house, and when I did, I made sure I was never alone. I slept in my parents' room for almost a year. I made them double lock every door, set an alarm, and still check everywhere in the room just in case someone was hiding. And I still check my room every night before, and I double lock it. I have not slept through a single night since this happened. I constantly wake up in panics, terrified. Someone is breaking in, or someone is here to hurt me, or I'm about to lose someone else that I love. The fear never really leaves. For a long time, I could barely get out of bed, but one day I realized I have to live for them. They did not get the chance to keep living, but I do, and I will not take that for granted. So now every day I remind myself to live for them, and everything I do it with them in mind. I am still scared to go out in public, but I force myself to do things because I know that they would want me to keep living my life to the fullest. I am beyond blessed to still be here, and I refuse to take that for granted when they did not get a chance. Our house was not just a house, it was a home. It was where we laughed till we couldn't breathe, make meals, did crafts, binge watch reality shows, played games, and spent lazy days on the couch. It was movie nights, wine nights, morning debriefs, pranks, hot chocolate, cookies, and warmth. I would cherish those memories forever, and I will not let what happened erase how special our home was or how much those memories meant to me. Now I would like to share some bits and pieces of who they were as people and some of the memories that we shared. One of my favorite memories was Halloween, and we all went to Sigma Chi. But instead of partying, we just sat in an apartment, talking and laughing all night long. I do not think I've ever laughed that hard in my life. We did not care about the party, we were just happy to be with each other. Zana was 1 in a million. She was the life of the party. But she was also the kindest and funniest person I knew. Everyone loved her because she made everyone feel so loved. She was just someone you always wanted to be around, no matter the circumstance. One of my favorite days with Zana was when she laid on the couch, when we laid on the couch together all day watching movies and snacking. Or when she, Maddie, and I would go and get margaritas, chips, and salsa. She would also light up a room with her presence alone. Kaylee had the most beautiful, radiant smile. She was so kind, but also one of the funniest people I've ever known. She loved playing little pranks. She always had us laughing so hard that we could not breathe. She was so full of energy and life. I really believe that she could have ruled the world if she wanted to, and she would have been America's sweetheart. Ethan was the sweetest, most genuine guy. He was always smiling and always making other people smile too. Ethan was the kind of person you wanted around. He was so kind and easy to talk to, and just so fun. And the way he cared for Zana was truly something to admire. And really was proof that storybook love and true romances really do exist. It was not only obvious to me, but everyone that was around Ethan and Zana that they were absolute soulmates. Maddie was not only one of my best friends, but she was the older sister I would have always wanted. There was no one I looked up to or admired more than Maddie. She was truly a ray of sunshine, and everyone was drawn to her. She was so kind, loving, funny, fun, and passionate. She had the sweetest soul and wanted nothing but the best for everyone, and to love and show love to everyone. She took me under her wing and always made me feel so safe and included, and above all, loved and valued. She never failed to make me laugh or put a smile on my face. Still to this day, I am beyond grateful that she chose me to be her sorority little, and I thank God every day that I not only got to know her, but had her as one of my best friends. Honestly, I cannot pinpoint one favorite memory with Maddie because I have so many, and this would be a very long read if I did. But if some little memories with her that I cherish is when the two of us made a nice dinner and split some wine, or when we would binge watch Jersey Shore or Summer House. When we came up with a whole dance routine on Halloween and danced and sang all night, like no one was watching. All the late night walks home from going out, and just little shopping trips and so much more. I am beyond blessed that I had the chance to know each and every one of them. They changed my life in ways I would have never put into words. I hope that they are remembered for who they are and not what happened to them, because who they are were so beautiful, and they deserve to be remembered in the highest way. My heart breaks every time I go to text one of them, or how badly I wish I could see and hang out with them. And then I remember I cannot. I will never be able to again. But I still talk to them in my prayers every single night, and I always will. I wish more than anything I could hug them one last time. And I wish I could tell them how much I love them. And even though I cannot, I still tell them every night. I will keep living for them as long as I am lucky enough to still be here. And they were all truly one of a kind. And they will be in our hearts forever and always.
Thank you. And please convey to Bethany my appreciation for her courage, and I hope that she heals.
Next is Dylan Mortonson. We're asking for some accommodations for Ms. Mortonson and that she be allowed to sit in my seat.
Sure. Dylan, just take your time, all right?
Sorry. Thank you, Your Honor. What happened that night changed everything. Because of him, four beautiful, genuine, compassionate people were taken from this world for no reason. He didn't just take their lives. He took the light they carried it into every room. He took away how they made everyone feel safe, loved, and full of joy. He took away the ability for me to tell them that I love them and that I'm so proud of them. He took away who they were becoming and the futures they were going to have. He took away birthdays, graduations, celebrations, and all the memories that we were supposed to make. All of it is gone. And all the people who loved them are just left to carry that weight forever. He didn't just take them from the world. He took them from me, my friends, my people who felt like my home, the people I looked up to and adored more than anyone. He took away my ability to trust the world around me. What he did shattered me in places I didn't know could break. I was barely 19 when he did this. We had just celebrated my birthday at the end of September. I should have been figuring out who I was. I should have been having the college experience and starting to establish my future. Instead, I was forced to learn how to survive the unimaginable. I couldn't be alone. I had to sleep in my mom's bed because I was too terrified to close my eyes. Terrified that if I blinked, someone might be there. I made escape plans everywhere I went. If something happens, how do I get out? What can I use to defend myself? Who can help? Then there are the panic attacks. The kind that slam into me like a tsunami out of nowhere. I can't breathe. I can't think. I can't stop shaking. All I can do is scream because the emotional pain and the grief is too much to handle. My chest feels like it's caving in. Sometimes I drop to the floor with my heart racing, convinced something is very wrong. It's far beyond anxiety. It's my body reliving everything over and over again. My nervous system never got the message that it is over, and it won't let me forget what he did to them. People call me strong. They say I'm a survivor, but they don't see what my new reality looks like. They don't see the panic attacks, the hypervigilance, the exhaustion, the way I scan every room I enter, the way I flinch at sudden sounds. They don't know how heavy it is to carry so much pain and still be expected to keep going, and that's because of him. He stole parts of me I may never get back. He took the version of me who didn't constantly ask, what if it happens again? What if next time I don't survive? He may have shattered parts of me, but I'm still putting myself back together. Piece by piece, I'm learning how to live in this new version of life. It is not easy. It hurts, but I'm still trying. Still trying, and I'm not trying just for me. I'm trying for them, my friends. About a year ago, I had a dream about them. I got to say goodbye. I told them I won't be able to see you again, so I need to tell you goodbye. They all kept asking why, and all I could say was, I can't tell you, but I have to. When I woke up, I felt shattered and heartbroken, but also strangely grateful. Like maybe in some way that dream gave us the goodbye we never got. Still, no dream can replace them, and no goodbye will ever feel finished. He is a hollow vessel, something less than human. A body without empathy, without remorse. He chose destruction. He chose evil. He feels nothing. He tried to take everything from me. My friends, my safety, my identity, my future. He took their lives, but I will continue trying to be like them, to make them proud. Living is how I honor them. Speaking today is to help me find some sort of justice for them. And I will never let him take that from me. He may have taken so much from me, but he will never get to take my voice. He will never take the memories I had with them. He will never erase the love we shared, the laughs we had, or the way they made me feel seen and whole. Those things are mine. They are sacred, and he will never touch them. I get to feel sadness. I get to feel rage. I get to feel joy even when it's hard. I get to feel love even when it hurts. I get to live. And while I will still live with this pain, at least I get to live my life. He will stay here, empty, forgotten, and powerless.
Dylan, thank you so much for your courage. I appreciate it.
Next, we have members from the Madison Mogen family. First would be Scott Laramie, Madison Mogen's stepfather. Standing by him is Cara Northington, Madison's mother.
Thank you, Your Honor. My name is Scott Laramie. I'm Maddie Mogen's stepfather and the husband of Maddie's mother, Karen Laramie. I will read this victim impact statement on behalf of Karen and myself. Maddie was our gift of life, our purpose, and our hope. Maddie quickly became Karen's joy, identity, and purpose in life. I joined Maddie's life when she was 2.5 years old. The experience transformed me into a life of joy, love, and family. Maddie was bright, beautiful, kind, empathic. She listened carefully to others and was observant, seeing and caring about the hearts and the minds of all she encountered. She loved music and music festivals. She had a wonderful sense of humor. She excelled in school. She was an easy child to raise, almost never requiring discipline, and almost always giving us parental joy. One time, Karen remembers disciplining Maddie as a little girl. Maddie responded, "You broke my heart," which of course melted ours. She had a keen wit, even at that young age. As she transitioned into teenage years, she prioritized us and extended family over many of the distractions that capture teenagers. She showered us with her presence and love at family events, barbecues, picnics, birthdays, holidays, and others. She spent countless hours with her papa, her Uncle David, Aunt Nadine, and her other close family and friends. This world was a better place with her in it. As she reached adulthood, Maddie applied her studies to be a marketing professional, entering into an internship at Payne West, and started planning her professional future. As with all things, she involved Karen and myself in the joy of her journey. As she transitioned into womanhood, Karen and I continued to be astounded at this wonderful and accomplished person we had created. All parents dream of their children accomplishing more than them. We realized this dream, all we had not become, she was becoming. Karen and I are ordinary people, but we lived extraordinary lives because we had Maddie. Maddie was taken senselessly and brutally in a sudden act of evil. She was taken along with the young, promising, and bright lives of Kaylee, Zana, and Ethan. First, we felt disbelief. Next, we felt disorientation. Then we felt grief overcome us. Our grief is compounded even more for the Gonzalez, Kernodal, and Chapin families. We speak of hope and healing, and we do have hope and some healing. But the vast emotional wound will never fully heal. Since Maddie's loss, there's emptiness in our hearts, home, and family, an endless void. After losing her mother in a car crash, Karen took years to grieve and recover. The feeling that her life with Maddie and A was perfect helped her to start to heal. Now, this is no longer perfect. After Maddie's loss, Karen felt like she was spinning out, emotionally collapsing into anxiety and depression. She sometimes asks, how am I supposed to go on when I've lost my favorite person in the world? I felt the same, and we continue to struggle. The loss of Maddie has impacted so many beyond our family. Her second family is her sorority sisters who grieve alongside us. She has so many close friends who suffer from her loss. We will continue to be. Her loss will continue to be felt by the Vandal community, including Vandal Solutions on campus, where she volunteered her time for others. It helps us to know Maddie is in heaven now, freed from the trials of this earth. We, however, continue to live on without the grace and support of her presence. We will grow old without our only child, our bright, beautiful friend and daughter. In the end, there are no words that can accurately capture the devastation of losing Maddie. We will endure, and we will go on. For Maddie, we will not let our grief consume us. For Maddie, we will continue to love and care for our family and friends, including the families of Kaylee, Zana, and Ethan. We will remain united with them. We can only hope that others out there suffering similar losses can look to us and see that we can overcome hatred, darkness, and evil. We know the law allows us to comment on the defendant and his sentence. As for his sentence, we support the plea agreement. Society needs to be protected against this evil. As for the defendant, we will not waste the words, nor will we fall into hatred and bitterness. Evil has many faces, and we now know this, but evil does not deserve our time and attention. We are done being victims. We are taking back our lives. We will turn our time, talents, and attention to hope, healing, and helping others, and to the future. We invite all those who have suffered with us on this to join us in our journey. We can make this world a better place. We can move on from tragedy. Adversity will visit us, evil will visit us, but we will overcome. We can and will endure. Karen and I express our gratitude to Your Honor and to the prosecution team for allowing us the opportunity to make this statement. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your courage, and I am so sorry for your loss. God bless you.
Your Honor.
Your Honor, this is Leander James. He's the attorney for the Mogen family and victim advocate. He'll be reading a statement for Karen Laramie.
May it please the court, counsel. My name is Leander James. I am the pro bono counsel for Karen and Scott Laramie. Karen has asked me to read this statement into the record. I thank my husband, Scott, for his statement, his courage, and his unending love and support during this dark time. While words are inadequate to capture the impact of this horrific crime in our family, he expressed it as best anyone could. For Maddie's sake, I will add my supplement statement that incorporates additional impact in the context of my extended family. I am grateful to Maddie's great uncle, Bryan Kohberger, for assisting me with the difficult task of putting our pain into words. For me and my extended family, Maddie was our hope and our light. Her beauty, both outside and in, shone its light upon everyone with whom she came in contact. Her beauty, she carried that hope and light into the future for our entire family. We have memories of our Maddie and grief and pain at her being taken from our presence. Any one of us would have given our own light to have been outshone by hers. We now look to our Creator to know that her light continues where we look to see her in His presence. Those who commit evil for their own twisted gains and purposes truly defile the efforts and sacrifices of mothers, fathers, families, teachers, clergy, public servants, service members, and all those who commit themselves to the greater good, freedoms, and the future light of our nation. Condemnation falls heavily upon those who squandered the lives of our future hopes and dreams. Some may offer forgiveness for what the defendant has done. However, We cannot at this time, or perhaps ever, nor will we ask for mercy for what he has done. His acts are too heinous, the agony and grief he has caused too great. But we will waste no further words or thoughts on him. For Maddie's sake, we will move on. We will do our best to carry Maddie's light into this world and make it a better place. I thank the court and the prosecution for allowing me the opportunity to make my statement, and I thank all those who have and will support my family and the families of Kaylee, Zana, and Ethan. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Laramie. Appreciate it.
Next is Ben Mogen, the father of Maddie Mogen.
Yes, of course.
Actually, Your Honor, it'll be Kim Chile, the grandmother of Maddie Mogen.
My name is Kim Chile. I was Maddie Mogen's paternal grandmother, as Ben Mogen, her father, is my son. I'm here today with my sister Lori Chile, Maddie's great aunt, and my son Ben Mogen, and my daughter-in-law Corey Hatrock. I'd like to begin by thanking a number of people involved in bringing this case to closure. In my daughter's words, the plea deal the prosecution team reached this month is one that punishes the perpetrator of this horrendous crime, protects the public from further harm, and allows all of us who knew and loved these kids the time to grieve without the anxiety of the long and gruesome trial, the years of appeals, and potential for mistrials along the way. My family and I are so grateful to Bill Thompson and his prosecution team for their dedication and painstaking work that forced the perpetrator to admit his guilt. We want to thank the Idaho State Police, the Moscow Police Department, the FBI, Judge Hippler. We'd also like to thank the University of Idaho officials who have treated the families of the victims with such dignity and kindness, and who have honored the 4 victims beautifully. Maddie was my first grandchild, so when she was born, all her grandparents had the distinct pleasure of deciding what we'd like to be called. I chose Nana, pretty original. But when Maddie was about 1.5 years old, her papa, Ben's dad, and I were planning to visit the new little family in Oregon. Maddie didn't have an extensive vocabulary at the time, but for some unknown reason, she called bananas ba-deedle-deedles. When Karen and Ben told her Nana was coming to visit, she figured, I say deedle-deedle for that word. So I became deedle-deedle, shortened to Deedle when she was about 6 or 7, and I was Deedle all her life. I don't think her stepdad, Scotty, ever knew my given name was Kim. Maddie's and my birthdays were 1 day apart, and a couple years before she was killed, she gave me this necklace with Deedle and Maddie engraved on it, and I added an angel wing, and it's one of my treasured possessions. I also got an angel wing tattoo. Never thought I'd see the day, but along with many members of our family, replicating the one that Maddie and her sorority sisters had, I wanted mine where I could see and touch it often. From preschool through grade school, I stopped teaching piano lessons early on Wednesdays and picked Maddie up for bubble baths, brownies, and books. It was our special time together, and she went home those nights in her jammies with a pan of warm brownies for her family. Although Karen and Scotty raised Maddie, and did such a lovely job of parenting. We Mogens were lucky to have her for holidays and many other family gatherings. We'll always have our treasured memories of Maddie growing up in our big, extended, cooperative family. And I thank Karen and Scotty Laramie for being so generous and open and sharing Maddie with her Mogen side of the family. When the 4 kids were murdered, the foundation fell out of our world. Initially, the fear was truly debilitating. The first 6 weeks were excruciating. Despite the vigils, memorials, candlelight gatherings of students, friends, family, community members. After the arrest, in the past 2.5 years, my family has lived with grief, with the effects of traumatic grief, of which I was blissfully unaware before all of this. I now have a stack of books on grief. I've attended grief classes at hospice. I've tried EMDR, a technique that helps replace disturbing visions with something more comforting. My son Ben, his 2 sisters, Maddie's aunts, and I have all experienced depression and anxiety and sleep disturbance, requiring medical intervention at times. We've all sought counseling off and on. The struggle with media attention was extremely difficult, especially for Ben. No one should live through the violent murder of one's child. Some days it's beyond me how the parents of these kids are still upright. I'm thankful for the strong families and communities that are supporting the survivors. At the time, I could think of only 2 blessings surrounding the horrific murders. One was that Ben was living with my partner Tom and me at the time, and that we could support each other emotionally through it all. Sadly, Tom died a year ago of a rare brain cancer, and he won't be here to see justice served. He was our family's rock, and we all miss him every day. A second blessing is that my mother died of COVID several months before the kids were killed, and she didn't have to live through the horror. It was difficult to identify blessings. So we've all lost our dear child and a future with her. I ache for the loss of the dreams that she and her true love, Jake, held. And my heart goes out to Karen and Scotty and your side of Maddie's family. You've had more than your share of loss. My heart aches for the kids' roommates and the families of the other victims, and also the family of the perpetrator. Going forward, we Mogens are choosing to put our energy and focus into honoring Maddie's too short life and sweet spirit by celebrating Maddie May Day, which my 2 daughters established. On May 25th each year, Maddie's birthday, we encourage folks to do random acts of kindness in Maddie's name. In my daughter Katie's words, may we all protect our peace in whatever way possible, unite in community, and focus on joy. Please do an act in kindness in Maddie's honor during this week, so a glimmer of Maddie's light may live on. Thank you.
Thank you, and I appreciate your courage, and bless you and your family.
Thank you.
Now it's Ben Mogen, Maddie Mogen's father.
I'm
Benjamin Mogen. I'm Maddie's dad. And first I just want to say thanks to all the people that helped bring this all to a close. I know it's not the resolution that everyone, wanted, but I think that that everyone worked so hard, and we really appreciate all their efforts. It was such a hard thing to go through for everybody. Maddie was my only child that I ever had. She's the only great thing I ever really did, and the only thing I was really ever proud of. And I thought we would have the rest of our lives together to be together and to know each other, and I took for granted the times, she was in college, and I thought, oh, well, we'll have the rest of our lives to do all the stuff that we're supposed to do, and she was just about done. She actually earned all of her credits for her college degree, and Karen and Scotty and I got to go and get her diploma that she actually earned, and she deserved every bit of that. And but I thought that was going to be just the beginning of a long life together, and we never got that. Karen and Scotty did such a great job raising her after Karen and I split up, and I'm so thankful for Scotty and the role that he played in her life when I wasn't able to. But we got to spend a lot of great times together, Maddie and I. She was my favorite person to go to a concert with. We got to see some fun shows together, and I told her, if there's ever a show that you want to go to, let me know, and I'll get you tickets for you and your friend, or if we want to go together, we'll make it happen. And my favorite memory with her was when the Mac Miller show sold out here in Spokane, and everyone wanted tickets, no one could get them, and on the last day before the show, they did a radio thing, and I got 4 meet and greet tickets for Maddie and her friends and me to go and see the show, and that was her favorite artist at the time, was Mac Miller, and he's gone now too, and my little cousin Zach drove us all there that night, and he's gone too, tragically, and anyway, the last thing that she ever wrote to me was this Father's Day card, and I'm so glad I still have it. I'm just gonna read what she said. It says, "Happy Father's Day. I hope you have the best day. I can't wait till we can hang out again soon. I'll be in Coeur d'Alene, 6:24 to 7:4. Hopefully we can find a time then. I love your birthday card that you sent me, by the way. Maybe we can see a concert sometime soon. I'd love to see the gorge when it's not so smoky out. I hope you're doing well. I'm proud of how far you've come. Thank you for always encouraging me to do my best. Love you lots and lots. Love, Maddie May." She did encourage me to not just to do my best, but to live on. I went through a lot of issues with addiction and with substance abuse, and when I wasn't wanting to live anymore, she was what would keep me from just not caring anymore, and knowing that she was out there and that she was just such a beautiful person kept me alive a lot of rough moments, and I'm so glad that she was able to meet Jake. He was the only one that I actually ever got to take her to the gorge. They went and saw Watershed together, and yeah, they had a heck of a time. I'm glad she got to. That's a really special place for me, and she always wanted to work out there with me in the summer sometime. She never got to, but at least she got to see it once with Jake. He was such a great guy. He is such a great guy. And I really wanted to see what a future with them would have looked like. I'll never be able to replace her. I wrote a bunch of stuff. I just don't know what to say right now. It's that I just miss her so much, and I just love her more than anything. And it shouldn't have happened. And a death sentence is one thing. You know when it's going to happen, and it's going to be all gentle and stuff. But, life without parole, with a building full of people that all just want you to not be around anymore, and winking at every morning, not knowing if that's the day they're going to pull your card. I mean, it's not a very nice sentence either. So, I don't know. I just love you, Maddie, and I wish you were still here.
Thank you so much.
Your Honor, next would be members from the Christy Gonzalez family. First will be her father, Steve Gonzalez.
Today, we are here to finish what you started. Today, you've lost control. Today, we are here to prove to the world that you picked the wrong families. The wrong state, the wrong police officers, the wrong community. You tried to break our community apart. You tried to plant fear. You tried to divide us. You failed. Instead, your actions have united everyone in their disgust for you. I just learned from these lead investigators, to their shock, they worked in an investigation and actually worked with Pennsylvania police officers and the federal FBI. You united everyone. Everyone was united after you. None of us are divided. We are united in our disgust and our love for these children. Today you have no name. Because when this all started, we all came together and we said, let's stop even talking about his name and just use initials. So even the media just calls you BK. That's all you are. Looking back when the police officers knocked on my door, told me what happened to my child, told me what happened to Maddie Mae, I don't think he was even out of the driveway before my kids turned around and looked at me and said, what do we do, Dad? I told them, you get to work. You get your ass to work. And we started calling, we started texting, we started emailing. And you know what? Within hours, we had your white car on the camera. We knew from the very beginning we had you. The police officers tell us within minutes, They had your DNA, like a calling card. You were that careless, that foolish, that stupid. Master degree, you're a joke, complete joke. But we took this disaster and we did what we could. We put everything online. We took our kids, we took our images, we took everything that they did, their videos, their photos, the girls' pranks, Ethan singing. We put it out there, we shared it with the world. And the world united. And all they ended up, when they talked about this case, is they talked about Kaylee Jade, Maddie Mae, Zana, and Ethan. Everything what these people meant to us, a father, a mother, a brother, a sister, we shared that with our community. Then we shared it with our state. We shared it with the country, and eventually we shared it with the world. The world's watching because of the kids, not because of you. Nobody cares about you. You're not worth the time, the effort to be remembered. In time, you will be nothing but two initials forgotten to the wind. No visitors, nothing more than initials on an otherwise unmarked tombstone. From this moment, we've all started. From this moment, we will forget you. We want to all leave in closing. One last thing. You picked the wrong family, and we're laughing at you on your trip to the pen. That will be today or tomorrow. I'll close with, God bless all the men and women that worked on this case and all the hard work that you guys did. You guys allowed us to grieve and allowed us to get through this. The amount of work that you guys put together and the way that you guys put it together was beautiful. There was hard times to be expected, but thank you all, and God bless.
Thank you.
Your Honor, next is Stephen Gonzalez, Kaylee's brother.
Stephen's actually gonna pass. I'm gonna go. Okay.
Olivia Gonzalez, Kaylee's sister.
Hello, I'd like to start by thanking the court for allowing me the time and opportunity to speak today. My name is Olivia, and I'm the big sister of Kaylee Gonzalez, and I was blessed to love Madison Mogen as a sister too. I'm not here today to speak in grief, I'm here to speak in truth. Because the truth is, my sister Kaylee and her best friend Maddie were not yours to take. They were not yours to study, to stalk, or to silence. They were two pieces of a whole, the perfect yin and yang. They are everything that you could never be. Loved, accepted, vibrant, accomplished, brave, and powerful. Because the truth about Kaylee and Maddie is they would have been kind to you. If you had approached them in their everyday lives, they would have given you directions, thanked you for the compliment, or awkwardly giggled to make your own words less uncomfortable for you. In a world that rejected you, they would have shown mercy. Because the truth is, I'm angry. Every day I'm angry. I'm left shouting at the inside of my own head everything I wish I could say to you. The truth about me is when I heard the news, I didn't cry. I listened for them. I promised them I would, that I would fight for them, that I would show up no matter what it cost me. I swore I'd never let them feel alone. Because you see, I've always been their heavyweight. I've always been the one to fight the battles they didn't feel ready to fight themselves. All it ever took was a call, and they knew I would handle it for them, no matter the time, no matter the cost. They could wave their white flag because they knew I would never back down, not for them, and not even death could change that. Somewhere along the line, I started to think about what I would say to them if I was given just one last chance. If I could gather enough heartbreak or love or sacrifice or whatever it took to get just one message across, what would I say? Throughout this entire process, I've written my feelings down at every moment, my wishes, my love, my denial, my anger. And as one final act of love, I'd planned to read these thoughts, even jarring and discombobulating and not even making sense. Because for me, that was true love. As bare and as naked as it could be, not laced in pretty words or dressed for the occasion, but written through bleary eyes at 2 a.m. with clenched fists, angry at this reality. My true final act of love was to continue on without them, for them. That dream to read aloud my love to them, to bring meaning through pain, was the latest blow in realizing you don't deserve it. And Kaylee and Maddie don't need it. Kaylee and Maddie have always known my love, and they would never ask me to prove it by further victimizing myself to a defendant who has shown no guilt, no remorse, no apprehension. They would say to me, "Why would you give the satisfaction of showing vulnerability now? You promised you would never back down." And for that clarity, I'm thankful. I won't stand here and give you what you want. I won't offer you tears. I won't offer you trembling. Disappointments like you thrive on pain, on fear, and on the illusion of power. And I won't feed your beast. Instead, I will call you what you are: sociopath, psychopath, murderer. I will ask the questions that reverberate violently in my own head, so loudly that I can't think straight most any day. Some of these might be familiar, so sit up straight when I talk to you. How was your life right before you murdered my sisters? Did you prepare for the crime before leaving your apartment? Please detail what you were thinking and feeling at this time. Why did you choose my sisters? Before making your move, did you approach my sisters? Detail what you were thinking and feeling. Before leaving their home, is there anything else you did? How does it feel to know the only thing you failed more miserably at than being a murderer is trying to be a rapper? Did you recently start shaving or manually pulling out your eyebrows? Why November 13th? Did you truly think your Amazon purchase was untraceable because you used a gift card? How do you find it enjoyable to stargaze with such a severe case of visual snow? Where is the murder weapon, the clothes you wore that night? What did you bring into the house with you? What was the second weapon you used on Kaylee? What were Kaylee's last words? Please describe in detail the level of anxiety you must have felt when you heard the Bearcat pull up to your family home on December 30th, 2022. Which do you regret more? Returning to the crime scene 5 hours later, or never, ever going back to Moscow, not even once, after stalking them there for months? If you were really smart, do you think you'd be here right now? What's it like needing this much attention just to feel real? You're terrified of being ordinary, aren't you? Do you feel anything at all? Or are you exactly what you always feared? Nothing. If you're so powerful, then why are you still hiding, defendant? You see, I'm here today as me. But who are you? Let's try to take off your mask and see. You didn't create devastation. You revealed it, and it's in yourself. And that darkness you carry, that emptiness, you'll sit with it long after this is over. That is your sentence. And it was written on the wall long before you ever pled guilty. You didn't win. You just exposed yourself as the coward you are. You're a delusional, pathetic, hypochondriac loser who thought you were so much smarter than everybody else. Constantly scolding, turning your nose up to grammar mistakes, nitpicking and criticizing others. You wanted so badly to be different, to be special, to be better, to be deep, to be mysterious. You found yourself thinking you were better than everyone else, and you thought you could figure out the human psyche and see through it, all while tweaked out on heroin. Lurking in the shadows made you feel powerful because no one ever paid you any attention in the light. You thought you were exceptional, all because of a grade on a paper. You thought you were elite because your online IQ test from 2010 told you so. All of that effort just to seem important. It's desperate. There is a name for your condition, though. Your inflated ego just didn't allow you to see it. Wannabe. You act like no one could ever understand your mind, but the truth is you're basic. You're a textbook case of insecurity disguised as control. Your patterns are predictable. Your motives are shallow. You are not profound. You're pathetic. You aren't special or deep, not mysterious or exceptional. Don't ever get it twisted again. No one is scared of you today. No one is intimidated by you. No one is impressed by you. No one thinks that you are important. You orchestrated this like you thought you were God. Now look at you, begging a courtroom for scraps. You spent months preparing, and still all it took was my sister in a sheath. You work so hard to seem dangerous, but real control doesn't have to prove itself. The truth is, the scariest part about you is how painfully average you turned out to be. The truth is, you're as dumb as they come. Stupid, clumsy, slow, sloppy, weak, dirty. Let me be very clear. Don't ever try to convince yourself you mattered just because someone finally said your name out loud. I see through you. You want the truth? Here's the one you'll hate the most. If you hadn't attacked them in their sleep, in the middle of the night, like a pedophile, Kaylee would have kicked your fucking ass. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Christy Gonzalez, Kaylee Gonzalez's mother.
Thank you, Your Honor. I never imagined having to speak to someone so devoid of humanity. For a long time, I didn't think I'd find the words low enough to meet you where you are. But now I realize this isn't about you. It's about what you've done to me, and I need you to hear it. When you murdered my daughter, Kaylee Jade Gonzalez, you didn't just take her life, you shattered others. You attacked what you could never be, and in doing so, you left a trail of devastation far beyond that house. You stole my peace. You've altered my every waking moment, every sleepless night, the way I view the world, people, safety, trust. It's all been changed by your cruelty. I no longer recognize parts of myself Joy's harder to find. Laughter feels foreign. The world moves forward, but I'm suspended in a place of sorrow and rage. You've taken from me something that can never be restored. The grief sits with me every day, some days quietly, and other days so loud it drowns out everything else. The emotional toll you've inflicted on me is immeasurable. I live with a constant ache, with birthdays that are now memorials, with holidays that feel hollow, with empty chairs that scream louder than words ever could. I am forever changed. But for you, as a person working on a PhD in criminal justice, you really didn't think this one through. You're not that good. In fact, you're not that good at anything. You couldn't secure a job. You couldn't get along with others. You couldn't even get a female to look in your direction. All because you are pathetic. Now you're a joke in this courtroom. I wish I could crown you with a jester hat to complete your orange jumpsuit clown look. A dead killer doesn't kill again. So while I'm disappointed the firing squad won't get to take their shots at you, I'm confident that the men in prison will have their way with you in more ways than one. You will finally get what you wanted, physical touch. Just probably not how you were expecting it. See, you haven't beat the system. You've simply entered a new one, where the rules are cruel and the consequences will never end. You are entering a place where no one will care who you are and no one will ever respect you. You will be forgotten, discarded, used, and erased. You will always be remembered as a loser, an absolute failure. And when those prison doors slam shut behind you, I hope that sound echoes in your heart for the rest of your meaningless days. I hope it reminds you of what we all already know. You're nothing. May you continue to live your life in misery. You are officially the property of the state of Idaho, where your fellow inmates are anxiously awaiting your arrival. But it's okay, because they're there to help you. Hell will be waiting. Quick message from our youngest daughter. Aubrey wanted to say, you may have received A's in high school and college, but you're going to be getting big D's in prison.
Thank you. Do we have more from the Gonzalez family, or are you?
Yes. Next would be Shannon Gray, the Gonzalez family attorney. He'll be reading statements from Kaylee Gonzalez's grandmothers.
Morning, Your Honor. Shannon Gray, the attorney for the Gonzalez family. I actually have 3 statements, one from her aunt and 2 from her grandparents. This is from her aunt, Tammy Butts. You, in the cloak of darkness, made a decision to turn our whole family's world upside down forever. You, in the cloak of darkness, took our Kaylee J. Gonzalez away from us all without hesitation. Never have you shown any remorse or regret. We just get creepy, non-expressive stares as you have your team of women defend you. Kaylee was a strong, kind, fun-loving, caring person, and she will greatly be missed by all her family and friends for the rest of our lives. She had goals in life that you took from her and us. We lose on watching her enjoying her life, working hard and building the future she wanted. She was ready to start that after college life. You, in the cloak of darkness, took it all away. You left us without her future wedding, her future children that she would have added to our family. No more talking to her on the phone, going for a coffee, celebrating holidays. It's all gone. You, in the cloak of darkness, gave each and every one of Kaylee's family members their own lifetime sentence. You, in the cloak of darkness, also took our Maddie Mae from all of us. She was so genuine, caring, polite. She was part of our family. You came in, harmed our children that were younger women than you in their own beds. You're nothing, you're a coward. It's not right that you have received life. I pray that you meet your end in the cloak of darkness, burn in hell. I have two other statements, Your Honor. This is Linda Lucan's statement. This is Kaylee's grandmother. I really don't know how to address something so inhumane, but I will try. Nothing in the past 2.5 years has made any sense. All I get is you cowardly went into a home at night, filled with what I'm sure you thought was all sleeping girls, and went on a vicious killing spree for no other reason but to appease your demonic urges. You took my granddaughter Kaylee from us, plus 3 other beautiful lives. You took my granddaughter Kaylee, beautiful, sweet-souled, doll-faced Kaylee, who was getting ready to start her amazing life, who had such a bright future, who was loved by so many, who you were so envious of. She had a life you could never have. You are so beyond human. You're definitely a demon from hell. I truly wish your punishment would be the same death you inflicted on our kids. But I think you will meet some new friends in prison who will be there just to help you. Thumbs up. And I have one last statement, Your Honor. This is from Cheryl Gonzalez, Kaylee's other grandmother. John 1:5 says, light shines in the darkness, and the darkness overcomes it not. Somewhere in your life, some jealousy, envy, ego, something went dark. It pushed out all light until you became dark and evil. And when you saw my granddaughter and her friends, their light, because they have such a light, you couldn't stand it. Because the darkness in you could not stand the light in them. And so you decided to destroy it. Cowardly, you walked into their rooms in the dark and took their lives, hoping to get rid of your darkness. But you didn't. You failed. Because you know what was once a light shown only to their friends, families, and loved ones is now all over the world. Everyone sees it. Their smile, their beauty, their plans, everything they were and had. And you think you put a close to it, even that, but you didn't. Because they still exist. They are still light. They are still beautiful. You can never take that away. They will always be in the light of all eternity. And you will be in the darkness because you could not overcome it. You failed. I want you to be gone, more than gone. I want you to be cast out. Cast out from my life, from my family, from this earth. I will not allow your hatred to penetrate into my own soul. You do not get that power. You are evil, and in the end, evil is eradicated. You didn't take Kaylee's light, you spread it into the world. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. All right, if the are you moving to a different family now? All right, why don't we take a 10-minute recess, all right?
All right, so the hearing right now is on a break as we've been listening to just some heart-wrenching testimony from the 2 surviving roommates as well as the loved ones of Madison Mogen and Kaylee Gonzalez. Joining me now is former King County Superior Court Judge Timothy Bradshaw, who's been watching this hearing along with me. What are your thoughts so far on hearing not only the pain but the anger and disgust specifically from the Gonzalez family?
It's an extraordinary thing that we do in society. We peacefully try to resolve pain. So what you see on display right now is the court's best attempt to not be vigilantes, to bring out the best in people, And that's what they're trying to do in a sort of imperfect way. It's this murderer's day of reckoning, for sure, but as you're seeing, this is really a day of remembrance. So you have that sort of duality to what's going on. Literally, there was a split screen, right? I mean, that's what pain sounds like. So the victims who are broken, talking about their expression of that and their hatred, but not at the same time wanting to be consumed by that hatred. Then you have the split screen of no emotion.
Yeah. I think a lot of people were watching Bryan Kohberger as you were listening to the roommates and the family members talk about the trauma that they've experienced after these murders. And as far as we could tell, zero expression. Even when Kaylee's dad turned the podium to speak directly at him, he was the first one to really address Bryan directly. Zero emotion. What do you make of that? He is looking directly at all of them as they're speaking.
Sure, and that's frankly part of punishment, to be publicly exposed for your deeds like this. So on one level, it does not offend me. Doesn't surprise me either, because I think it's probably likely that this person has a mental disorder. And you heard a reference to one of the families saying it's a sociopath or something.
Yeah.
Well, key part of that diagnosis, if that's the case, is a complete lack of empathy. So you saw these poor people who are broken, clearly still have PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. And it shows what the system, what trials, again, try to do. But everyone involved, including the judge, including the staff, including the bailiffs, everyone has, to a certain degree with this case, these types of cases, vicarious trauma.
One of the things that drew applause was when Kaylee's sister, Olivia, specifically asked a whole list of questions that she's been wondering, not only her, but lots of others and family members wondering, why? What were you thinking? How, why were they targeted? There are just so many unanswered questions, and he was nodding, clearly listening. Do you think we're going to learn the answers to these questions?
I highly doubt it, but again, a person with a mental disorder is not that predictable, so we'll see. But my guess is the defense wants to be clinical and get out of there as soon as possible. Now, the purpose of allocution, which he has an absolute right to do, he has he has the right to not say anything. But the purpose is to express remorse, to ask for leniency, and to provide answers. He doesn't seem inclined to do any of that.
And in your experience, if a defendant were to speak, to ask for remorse and leniency, how often does that have an impact on the final sentence?
It depends on the case, obviously. Case like this, the acts speak far louder than the words. There's absolutely no doubt about that. But the judge would try to detect whether there's sincerity. And he's on notice that the family wants to know why. He has the opportunity to provide that. Even though it's, on the big scheme of things, hardly anything. You heard, as you say, a person basically requesting, please tell me why. Give me answers, and with those answers, can get on a better road to healing. So he knows, and he has now the power to do just that. But does this seem like the person who wants to be merciful?
He's facing 4 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole. Is there any chance, although the judge can issue a different sentence, is there any chance that he would issue any lesser sentence than that?
You're right. Part of the plea agreement was that the court has the discretion to go below the maximum sentence. So the court does have that authority. However, part of this plea agreement, this plea deal, was that both sides will jointly recommend the maximum sentence. With that, it's highly unlikely the judge would depart below that.
All right, Judge Bradshaw, we'll get back to you in just a second. But first, let's get out to Jake Wittenberg, who's been live outside the courthouse all morning long. Jake, you saw this huge line of people filing into the courthouse this morning. Were you able to see any of the victims' families go in?
Mimi, we did, and we're also expecting them to speak here outside of the courthouse after the hearing as things wrap up, presumably today. Struck by several things, echoing what the judge had just said, what Tim was saying about this sort of cathartic feeling that these families and the Gonzalez family in particular must be having, and just really saying why I think a lot of people may be thinking in that courtroom, but really trying to get under his skin, using this opportunity to really say their feelings and thoughts about what they've had to go through for the last 2.5 years. Also very struck, and if I must say, by Maddie Mogen's father, a man who admitted to having addiction in his life, saying that his daughter is the one that saved him from addiction. It was an emotional moment, and that this is probably something, speaking in front of a group of people, something he's probably never done before. Finding the strength to do so in this moment really speaks to the powerfulness, how powerful this whole hearing is, and really this important moment in the lives of all these families to find some kind of closure. Did not hear one time anyone mention this defendant's name. No one said the words Bryan Kohberger. In fact, the Gonzalez family saying from now on they will not be mentioning his name, saying, quote, they will be laughing at him on the way to the pen.
Yeah, Jake, and I mean, it struck me how much courage and bravery it took for each one of those people to get up today. Specifically from those roommates, the surviving roommates who are hearing from the very first time. One was her friend read the statement, but Dylan Mortonson's statement where she was, clearly emotional, crying hysterically, talking about being 19 and being forever changed by this moment and having panic attacks and having this impact her life so deeply. She was, by the way, the one who saw presumably Kohberger in the mask in the house at the time. So the nightmares that she continues to have about that, but the fact that she was able to, be in the courtroom and address how she was impacted by these murders of her roommates and friends was just heartbreaking to hear. Do you think that we're going to... Go ahead, Jake.
Well, I was just going to also just say, sort of echo what you're saying as well, Meme, just when it comes to the roommates. The very first speaker was a friend of Bethany Funk. She was the one that first called 911. And it was interesting in her statement, she expressed a lot of regret about not calling the police sooner and almost asking for forgiveness for not doing more. She used that opportunity to explain herself in a story about she had a toothache. She had called her father, she had who's a dentist, to tell her how much pain she was in. He said, take Advil and go back to bed. She always regretted that. And again, using this moment today to almost apologize to the family. She said nothing else could have been done, but she wanted to take that moment as well to sort of clear the air. It was a really emotional start, middle, and finish to this first section here, Mimi, of the speaking. In about a few minutes from now, they're going to return for the second portion of this hearing before the lunch break.
Yeah, we don't know, Jake, how many people will actually be speaking. We do know that Ethan Chapin's family has chosen not to be in the courtroom. We don't know, however, if they're going to be giving a statement and having someone read that on their behalf. They have said that they're happy with the plea agreement and they are looking for this moment to be of closure and they want to move on. But wow, I have to say with the Gonzalez family, they've always been very outspoken, but the anger and their just the strength of them fighting through this, the way people grieve through this kind of thing very differently and how they're processing this very differently. They clearly, when they spoke, it drew applause from the courtroom. We can't see, however, if Bryan Kohberger's family members are there. NBC News reports that his mother is in the courtroom, so I'm curious to see, how she might be responding or reacting. We can't see her. We are seeing Kohberger's non-reaction to the statements being read. But do you know anything about that? About any other family members who might be in the courtroom?
Yeah, we don't have any reporting on whether Kohberger's parents are in the courtroom. We did not. I was looking at all doors here, along with our photojournalist. We did not see Kohberger's mother, although she has been very hidden from public view throughout this entire process, including during the plea hearing where she and her husband were in attendance. And to your point again, Mimi, about the Gonzalez family, it was almost as if the judge knew the sort of vitriol that was to come from the Gonzalez family. It appeared as if he was planning this first break right after the Gonzalez family to kind of give the court a moment to catch their breath and shift gears a bit by such powerful words from the mother, father, and older sister of Kaylee Gonzalez.
All right, Jake, we'll check back with you in just a little bit. Judge Bradshaw, one of the things I was also watching is Judge Stephen Hickler. I was watching him as he was listening also to these statements. At one point, it looked like he had grabbed a tissue and blotted his eyes. What, in your experience being a King County Superior Court judge, having gone through these situations in these sentencing hearings, what's it like, do you think, what's going on for him listening to all of this?
There's a lot going on. He needs to control the courtroom. He needs to project order. The whole effort here is to provide order to chaos and pain. He's trying to do that. But there's not a judge school you go to be a good human, to empathize with people. The best judges come to that naturally. I think we're seeing some nice glimpses from him. He's already thanked family members for their, quote, courage. He wishes them healing. He said he's sorry for their loss. He even said at least one time that he blessed them. So there's a almost church-like ceremonial aspect of this as well.
Do you think he will say anything? Is that typical of judges to say something themselves?
Yeah, great question. He need not. He could simply say, here's the maximum term, I'm imposing it, and here's where you'll serve it, and move on, right? But I think the better judges, particularly when society needs a pronouncement, as in this case, should strive toward wisdom. And I think he's gonna do that just based on what I've seen right now. He could make the point that whatever derangement this fellow has doesn't excuse his inhumane, repugnant, atrocious actions. He could, as I've done in the past, say, let's remember Maya Angelou. When a person shows themselves to you, believe them. And he could say how this is unacceptable and why indeed this will be your sentence.
He did reserve today and tomorrow in the event that the sentencing hearing continues past today. Unsure of how long these victim statements and how many there will be and how long they will last. Is it unusual for a sentencing hearing to last more than one full day?
That would be unusual. And for all the victims and everyone experiencing this, I hope it doesn't go into day two, to be honest with you. So let's keep it confined, but allow everyone who needs to speak to do that and to show that, you know, this is a system about peaceful resolution of our conflicts, and this is the best we're doing.
And there's no time limit on their statements, right?
Right.
If someone wants to talk for 20 minutes, they can talk for 20 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, how do you tell someone that your pain needs the expression of your pain needs to end in 5 minutes, in 10 minutes? You can't really do that. It's not quantitative, it's qualitative. And I feel for all these family members speaking, imagine the task that they set for themselves to summarize their loss and to summarize their loved one's life in the 5 minutes, in the 10 minutes.
Yeah, and so many of them, you know, didn't want to necessarily focus on the actual murders, but to talk about, you know, who these young people were and the life they had ahead of them that was extinguished because of this one person's actions.
I think that's a pivot that's definitely happening and often happens in sentencing hearings, where you go from the punishment and revealing things about the murder, but then you shift to, let's talk about the loss. Let's talk about these people. They're not just known as, what is it, the Idaho 4? Tellingly has no names.
Yeah.
So you go from everything you know about them was only in their deaths. You go to, now let's talk about them in their life.
So what happens after all the victim statements are complete? Is it the prosecution or the defense that goes next?
Right, so we're still in the plaintiff or the government's case.
Okay.
So the state of Idaho is still proceeding. This is the main part of their case. It'll be up to the prosecutor whether he wishes to submit additional evidence. There was an allusion to some photographs.
Right.
I'm not sure what that's about. I hope they're in-life photographs for the record or display here today. I don't know. At the plea hearing, the prosecutor was loquacious, was speaking about things, so maybe he has a presentation in mind as well. The next stage of that presentation will simply be, here is this presumed sentence, here's our recommendation, and we know that to be the maximum.
Okay.
Then we shift to the defense presentation.
At the beginning of the hearing, I believe the judge asked the prosecution if they had any additional evidence to present.
Right.
They said no.
Right.
Does that happen sometimes? And if that's the case, why?
Yeah, I didn't know what that was about.
Okay.
Obviously, guilt has been determined.
Right.
There's no requirement for any sort of evidence, any sort of production. So I took that just to be, do you want to complete the record with some exhibits or something like that?
Okay. And is it typical for the prosecution to present photographs or any type of display as part of a sentencing hearing?
You certainly can. In my experience, when I was a homicide prosecutor, we would sometimes put together a video presentation of the victim's life, which helps a lot of people because of the emotions that are going to compromise you right now. But that's something that's possible.
In terms of his, what happens to Bryan Kohberger afterwards, once this is wrapped up? We saw obviously he's in an orange jumpsuit, prepared to go to prison right away. Is that where he's taken immediately?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
There'll be an intake procedure, and that probably has already started. So the Department of Corrections for the state of Idaho, if they need to concern themselves with things beyond this case, for example, are there prior instances where there would be witnesses who have a conflict with this person? So when they set about where are we going to house this person, they're taking into consideration a lot more than just the crime facts.
All right, Judge, just a moment. Let's get back to the hearing right now, which is resumed.
Zana Kernodal, and first would be Jasmine Kernodal, Zana's sister.
I want to say thank you to everyone who's been involved in this, and just for all the hard work and dedication you guys have put into this. I also want to thank everyone for the support and just my family and friends who've been around through this time. I went back and forth on whether to speak today because the truth is, you don't deserve power over my feelings, my words, or me.
Thank you. In the end, I realized this moment isn't about you. It's about justice for Zana, Ethan, Kaylee, and Maddie. It's about honoring the beautiful people they were and still are in God's eyes. On November 13th, 2022, a piece of my heart was ripped away. There's no way to ever fully describe the weight of losing my sister, my best friend. No sentence or punishment will ever come close to the justice Zana, Ethan, Kaylee, and Maddie deserve. Zana was everyone's best friend. She was kind, she was funny. She was a gift to each person she was able to make an impact on. Zana was someone I turned to when I needed direction or advice. Although I am her older sister, I often found myself looking up to her. She had a radiant energy that everyone loved, and she always knew the right way to approach a problem. She knew how precious and special life was, and she truly did live every day to the fullest. Yet her story was cut short by an act of evil. I believe in a God whose justice is not bound by this courtroom. I find peace knowing that judgment ultimately belongs to him. For your sake, I hope one day you feel the full weight of what you did. I hope you take accountability. I hope you truly experience the guilt and you surrender yourself to Jesus Christ. Because no punishment on this earth can ever compare to the isolation and pain of eternal separation from God.
Zana deserved more. They all did. But I come here to say this. I am strong. I am brave. I'm a fighter, just like Zana. And you don't get to control how I move forward or what I believe. I walk with the comfort of knowing I will see my sister again. Zana didn't get the future she deserved. She won't be the maid of honor at my wedding, the cool aunt to my future children. I'll never hear her laugh or see her light up a room ever again. But I will carry her with me for the rest of my life. I will live in her honor, fight to be the best kind of woman and someone she's proud of, to make sure the world never forgets who she was. Zana's story doesn't end with what was taken from her. It lives through the love she gave, the people she touched, and the legacy our family will protect. Her light still shines, and her voice will echo louder than this pain. You didn't take that from us, and you never will.
Thank you.
I just want to say before I start, I'm Zana's dad, Jeff Kernodal. It's been a hard road down, you know, because she's gone. And I want to thank everybody, other their families that's speaking so far, spoke about things. I agree with everything they have to say. It all comes back to a lot of the same things that I've had to deal with and we as a family have had to deal with. And that brings me, you know, a basis of what I'm talking about a little bit is on my way up here, flying up here in the plane, and about halfway through the flight, this little girl is calling out for her dad. Hey, dad, and then in my mind, I was kind of half asleep. It's dark on the plane. I heard Zana calling out for me like she did, you know, back when she was little, 5 years old. And those times were hard. It was chaotic, but we always had something to work toward that was in a positive direction compared to right now, which is necessarily not as positive as that for sure. And I know I miss Zana a lot. My life's been changed, and Zana had a great impact on me. And the impact was when she was gone, I realized how important she was and what she really did for me, influenced me, was way beyond what I ever thought. She'd call me up on the weekends, check on me, see who's with me. She's like accountability to your youngest daughter. And that really made a big difference. It made me really think about things and what it's all about, you know? That's the things that I miss the most, is those calls on the weekends, the calls at 11 at night. Oh, what's going on? You want to meet my friend? You know, whoever she's with, a couple of her friends, I can meet them, talk to them. And she always did that. And it's pretty cool. Pretty cool. I really miss that. And she made a big impact on me, on other people, her family, but the impact that she made is so extensive on what happened here, and it goes so far. People from everywhere in the world, you know, are following things, and Zana has made a difference in their lives. So, you know, countless people told me that. They might not even know her. They never knew anything about her. It's what they see. And they just love her and say how they wish she could have been their friend. You know, could have been their friend, could have hung out, and it's like, this is a blessing, you know. This is the little kid was, and definitely was a big blessing in my life, and so is Jasmine, and basically, you know, we worked hard to do the things we did, you know, through the times they were growing up. And through those times, I realized that I wanted both of them to graduate college, and that'd be the ultimate thing for them to do to prepare for the world. Then it came back to me, Zana didn't get to finish college. He had it all figured out. And this all just came back to me when I was there and that little girl was on the plane doing that. It's like where I was going, what I was going here for. And then I just realized and thought to myself about the wonderful life that she had and we had together. And I still get to have with Jasmine, but that's the part that really counted. It's the part that really counted is those memories. And those are what I have left, the memories with her and the ones I can make with her and the life that I can go on with now, which is what she wants. And I say that in present tense because that's what she wants, because I've been told that, I've had countless ways that she's out there and has a way to communicate, which I'm very grateful for. That goes to say that the impact of what happened to them, all 4 kids, goes so much further than just not me, the parents, the families, the community. It goes so far because a lot of kids, in the colleges, just for an example, they lock their doors now. The door wasn't locked in the back. Penn State or wherever it was, all the colleges I know that I've heard, they all lock their doors now. So maybe the impact that it's going to make is going to help out and maybe protect some people. Having this outreach and having the influence of what these kids, what happened to these kids did, All I know is I was 7 miles away when it happened, and she wasn't feeling that good. It was 11:30, and I almost went over to Susanna's to say, and I would have been sitting right there on that couch, and you had to deal with me. So they would have had a chance, and I regret that, and I regret not going. But the reason why I didn't is because Zana said, don't be drinking and driving. You got the rental car, don't be drinking and driving, the week before that. So she was, she would have been mad at me to do that. But I really wish I would have drunk and drove, because they would have had a chance, all 4 of them. At this point, I just have to go on. We're gonna go on with everything and make things better in my life, because that's what it's all about. If I have closure in things, and the part that we miss is Zana, her influence, her smile, the things that she did, and we have the memories left, the great memories, and she just wants us to make more memories and not be sad or upset or shocked or taken for that, and that's what we're gonna do. We just have to. That's all I got.
Thank you for your words and your courage, and bless your family.
Next, Kim Kernodal would like to address the court.
Thank you, Your Honor. My name is Kim Kernodal. I am Zana's aunt. I was very blessed to have her in my life, in our family. And I thought I had everything in my head, what I wanted to say, but it kind of went out. And I'm always looking for the positive thing, because evil, hate, can destroy people. And that's what it started doing with our family. It created anger with our family members. And then I had to look, because Zana was everything that the media, her friends said. She was that fun, loving, high-spirited, beautiful person. And I no longer get to get my nails done with her, have lunch with her. Sorry. But how I look at it now is this tragedy, this horrible tragedy on all of the 4 children, has brought us closer. You united us with your actions. We're united now, and we're stronger than ever. We have family and friends now that we never knew we had. And, you know, this is probably going to bother everybody, but Bryan, I'm here today to tell you I have forgiven you, because I no longer could live with that hate in my heart. And for me to become a better person, I have forgiven you. And anytime you want to talk and tell me what happened, get my number. I'm here, no judgment, because I do have answers or questions that I want you to answer. And I'm here. I'll be that one that'll listen to you, okay? Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you very much.
My name is Zana Kernodal, and I'm Xana's uncle, Jeff's brother. Sitting here today listening to the stories and feelings and feeling the pain from everybody is a pretty powerful thing. It's each time a statement was read, it sort of would tug into my center core as I felt everybody's anguish. And Zana meant a lot to us, and we loved her very much. But I started thinking about, instead of rehashing everything that everybody else has talked about, I wanted to direct it another direction toward Bryan and what he's done to his family, his parents, his siblings, his friends, his universe. He has contaminated, tainted their family name, and pretty much made a horrible, miserable thing to be ever related to him. And I know that that's what he has to live with, and that has to be his pain. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Next, Your Honor, I believe Randy Davis, stepfather to Zana Kernodal, would like to address the court.
Hi, my name's Randy, stepdad of Zana. I just feel the same way we all do. All of us are united because of something that happened. And I'm grateful to know and have met some new family because of this awful event. But this is probably the last time we're all going to be in the same room together, let's be real. So I can say, I love you all, and I feel your pain. And just God bless us all, you know? Just get through it. I had stuff wrote up. It was probably best I didn't read it out. Probably get kicked out of here, so. You know, I'll share one thing to you guys, not to you, with Zana. So I was working in North Dakota and came home, and Jazzy and Zana had taken our son Elijah and put him in a dress, makeup, and it was awful, you know. I was like, I don't know. She was funny. I told her she'd be in the movies and be somebody great one day like that. And now she is just above us as an angel with all the other beautiful kids. So let's hold that to our hearts, because this evil thing is not going to take nothing from us. You, man, I don't know what my limits are here, but I'm really struggling, dude. I am struggling, so I want to just be out in the woods with you, just so I can teach you about loss and pain. I love God. I wouldn't take your life. That's up to Him. But I guarantee you, you are weak. God, I would just give a moment, man. 5 minutes out in the woods. Oh man, you're gonna go to hell. I know people believe in other stuff. You're evil. There's no place for you in heaven. You took our children. You are gonna suffer, man. I'm shaking because I want to reach out to you, but I hope you feel my energy, okay? Go to hell.
Next is Cara Northington, Zana's mother.
I'm Cara Northington. I am Zana Kernodal's mother. This letter is to you, really, but it's for my daughter, who was murdered by you. Today I stand before you, the man who is responsible for murdering my beautiful daughter, Zana Kernodal. My daughter was beautiful both inside and out. She possessed love for those around her and had a light so bright it will live on forever in our hearts. She brought joy and laughter to her friends, her family, and anyone in her presence. Our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, now has her in His loving arms in heaven, where she can never be harmed ever again for eternity. Because of her, I came to know my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Because of her, many will come to Christ. It is Christ who lives in me that has given me the strength to forgive you. It was of no power of my own. In return, the Lord has filled me with joy, hope, and peace that surpasses all understanding. Jesus has allowed me to forgive you for murdering my daughter without you even being sorry or asking for this. This is only possible because He who lives in me is greater than any evil in this world. For God hath not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. I do not fear you or even let you rent space in my head anymore. This forgiveness has released me from any and all evil you have inflicted on me and my family. It has allowed me to let our Lord deal with you. You have accepted a deal that will prevent you from receiving the death penalty. Nothing man can do to you can ever compare to the wrath of God. Inevitably, you will stand before our Lord and will have to answer to Him over the sins you have committed in murdering our children. I pray you come to the end of yourself before that day. Whether you like it or not, heaven is for real and so is hell. The innocent life of Zana that you stole from myself and my family, and the destruction of this and the destruction it has caused. I am washing my hands of you and turning you over to my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, whom vengeance belongs to. In closing, I want to read a passage from the Bible, Ephesians 6, King James Version. Finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might. Put on the whole armor of God, that ye may be able to withstand the wiles of the devil. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. Wherefore, take unto you the whole armor of God, that ye may be able to withstand in the evil day, that ye may be able to stand in the evil day. I'm not going to share memories of Zana or any more of the goodness of her with you, because I do not want that to be in your head. I don't want it to be in your head. You don't deserve that. You don't deserve our good memories that we have. I do pray for you. I pray that you come to the end of yourself. I pray that before this life is over, that you ask our Lord and Savior in your heart and to forgive you. I do pray for that. But after today, I wash my hands of you, and you are no longer a thing. Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't believe the state has any other victim impact statements.
Okay. Right, state can argue.
Thank you, Your Honor. Just as a housekeeping matter to start, there will be the issue of restitution. That is, the documentation is being gathered, and we ask if the court would defer that for 30 days so we can present it in an orderly fashion and make sure it's comprehensive for everyone.
Any objection to leaving restitution open 60 days? All right.
Thank you, Your Honor. I think it's necessary and appropriate to share for everyone here, including the court, the background that brings us in front of Your Honor today for these proceedings. As the record reflects, and as everybody in this courtroom knows, the defendant has pleaded guilty to all 5 counts charged in the indictment. Under oath before Your Honor, he has admitted that the charges against him are true. He has reassured the court that he has not been coerced or threatened to make those admissions. And Your Honor did an extraordinary job in taking the pleas back on July 2nd. We appreciate the court's discipline and insight. The defendant has also waived appeal on the multitude of rulings from this court and Your Honor's predecessor in Latah County on dozens, literally dozens of motions seeking to dismiss the case, seeking to control or limit evidence, seeking to offer evidence that would not be appropriate. And we appreciate the court's consistent rulings based on the law, based on the facts. As Your Honor will recall, on June 18th, just really not that long ago, we appeared before this court for arguments on what became the defendant's final motions to this court. Motion where they wanted to offer evidence suggesting that other people were responsible for the defendant's actions, and the motion seeking essentially an indefinite continuance of the trial. It was readily apparent to all of us in the courtroom from Your Honor's comments that those motions were not going to be granted. So we returned to Moscow and continued with what we had been working on for months in preparation for trial. We had no qualms about going to trial if trial was what was necessary and appropriate. The following week after we were in court, we were approached by the defense with an inquiry about a possible plea. And I can tell the court this is the first suggestion ever that there was any consideration, because indeed, the defense had maintained from the beginning that Mr. Kohberger, the defendant, was factually innocent. It's clear that the reality of the evidence and the case that had been investigated and prepared and that we were ready to present in court became a reality. Our reaction, among other things, was to reach out to all the families. And in fact, later that week, on Thursday and Friday of that last week of June, we met with representatives by teams, virtual meetings, with representatives of all of the families. And we talked about the status of the case and the upcoming trial and things that related to the trial. And we also let them know that there had been an inquiry about whether there might be an offer for a plea. And we asked the family members for their thoughts and feelings. And they were candid. And they have been candid since, and we respect that. And we understand, recognize, and acknowledge that there was a difference of opinion among representatives of the different families. We understand that. One of the challenges of this case, one of the unique things about this case is we have multiple victims, each unique unto themselves, their families and friends unique unto themselves, and all of them entitled to their opinions, all of them entitled to their thoughts. Over the following weekend, our prosecution team, very skilled attorneys who were personally as well as professionally deeply invested in this case, met. And we talked, and the decision was reached. Well, to start with, were there to be any sort of plea offer or discussion, there's only one possibility. And that would be for the defendant to plead guilty straight up to all charges. There would be no bargaining about counts. There would be no bargaining about reduced sentences. And so we made the proposal to the defense that if the defendant was willing to plead guilty up front to all 5 counts as charged and waive appeal of the court's myriad decisions during the past 2.5+ years on all of these motions that would have consumed years, if not decades, of time in the future. By the end of the weekend, we were notified the defendant was prepared to plead guilty as charged and factually acknowledge his responsibility in court for these horrible crimes. Obviously, those discussions and negotiations were confidential. And as Your Honor noted, I believe that was necessarily so, because if the defendant had decided not to plead guilty, it would have been devastating to our jury pool for there to be public information that there had been consideration by either party to a plea resolution. and protecting the prospective integrity of a trial after so many years was paramount. So, the end of the weekend came. We notified the victims' families of what had occurred. I recognize and acknowledge personally, and I respect the fact that of these fine, suffering people here, not everybody agreed with the decision we make. I accept that. It's my responsibility in the end. I recognize that that's the duty of the office that I hold. So now, it is time for the judicial system to impose final judgment and close the door on this chapter of these tragedies. As the court is aware, by the agreement of the parties, it is the state's prayer. Perhaps have the Elmo police turned on. Thank you. That on count one, the felony burglary, that the court sentenced the defendant to the maximum period of 10 years fixed in the custody of the Idaho Department of Correction. Then on count two, that the court sentenced the defendant to fixed life for the murder of Maddy Mogen. On count three, that the court sentenced the defendant to fixed life for the murder of Christy Gonzalez. On count four, that the court sentenced the defendant to fixed life for the murder of Zana Kernodal. On count five, that the court sentenced the defendant to fixed life for the murder of Ethan Chapin. And the state further prays that these sentences be ordered to run consecutively, back to back, not at the same time, to recognize and respect the unique individuality of each of these beautiful young people whose lives were taken brutally and for no reason. And hopefully now, as we have heard earlier this morning, it is time to afford the families and the friends and the community and the state of Idaho and the nation and the world to move forward. We can't undo, and we can never undo, the horror of what occurred on the early morning hours of November 13th, 2022 at 1122 King Street in Moscow, Idaho. For a long time, the presiding district judge in Latah County was John Stegner, who eventually became a member and a justice of the Idaho Supreme Court. And Justice Stegner often observed that even God cannot change the past. But everyone in this room has the ability to take themselves forward. And we want the judicial system to afford them the opportunity today to do that. From today forward, our memories should be focused on these innocent victims whose lives were taken, on their families, on their friends, on the community. The court has heard discussion, talk today, reminiscences today about a special family that our victims shared, not just their natural, legal, and biological families, not just their university family within their sororities, for example. But this family. This is the picture taken on November 12th, 2022, of the special family of 1122 King Road. And you can see all 6 of these dynamic, vibrant, loving, special, innocent faces taken together just across the street from their residence, and barely 12 hours before 4 of them would be brutally murdered in their sleep. They've been described consistently as being bright, caring, vivacious, with futures we can only imagine now. But they were, and they remain, a special family that I think we should all recognize and appreciate. So it's time to move forward. There have been a number of statements directed specifically at the defendant today. I have one last thought. After Your Honor imposes judgment and sentences the defendant to spend the rest of his life in prison, in other words, sentence the defendant to die in prison, he's going to stand up in the belly chains and leg irons that he's wearing today, and he's going to be escorted into the custody of the Idaho Department of Correction. And the door will close behind him forever. That is the closure that we seek, that all of these people, these loving friends and family deserve, so that we can move forward. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. All right, does the defense have evidence to present today?
No evidence.
All right. Does defense wish to make argument today?
Runner, we do not wish to make arguments. Mr. Kohberger, along with his legal team, is prepared for the court to enter judgment.
All right, Mr. Kohberger, you have an opportunity to make a statement if you wish to. I take it you are declining.
I respectfully decline.
Well. Please. All right, let me start this morning by acknowledging and thanking those that have come here today in support of their loved ones, and I appreciate your courage and your strength. And I hope that you are able to move on as best as possible. Thank counsel for the professionalism that they've exhibited throughout this case. It has been my great honor to preside in this case and to help bring, to the extent possible, some resolution and hopefully justice to this case. During the quiet morning hours of November 13,
2022, a faceless coward breached the tranquility of 6 beautiful young people and senselessly slaughtered them, 4 of them. Who committed this unspeakable evil was unknown for several weeks, but due to the killer's incompetence and outstanding police work by numerous local, state, and federal law enforcement agencies, the person that slithered through that sliding glass door at 1122 King Road now stands before the world and this court unmasked. This unfathomable and senseless act of evil has caused immeasurable pain and loss. No parent should ever have to bury their child. This is the greatest tragedy that can be inflicted upon a person. Parents who took their children to college in a truck filled with moving boxes had to bring them home in hearses lined with coffins. The loss this killer inflicted was not just the death of these people's children, siblings, grandchildren, as we've heard today. It has ripped a hole in their soul, destroying a special part of their very essence. Any person who is a parent defines themselves foremost as such. It is their existence and purpose of being. And it has been stolen from these parents. None of us have experienced the loss these victims have in the unspeakable way that they have. And therefore, none of us can, nor should we, question the way in which they have handled their loss. Whether that be in private mourning, removed as far as possible from this media circus, or in front of a camera demanding retribution with the loudest megaphone. I've listened intently to the stories and pain that have been shared today, with great awe at the courage and resilience of the surviving family members of those wonderful children. I've listened also to the surviving roommates, both in person and through their friends. And I can't think of how, frankly, courageous they have been despite the hell that they have faced by uncaring people who have come up with all kinds of crazy theories about 2 kids simply being kids. The parents, siblings, and other family members who have spoken today are designated as victims in our legal system. But going forward, I hope that they can shed that label, as it gives too much power to the evil that condemned them to that role. They are and should be known as survivors, fighters, and foremost as witnesses to the tremendous lives of value and unbounded promise of these 4 young people. But those speaking today and those who did not speak, but who carry this same burden, this same loss, now carry forward the memories of these now perpetually young people, these forever children. These survivors carry the responsibility of ensuring that the voices of these children, Maddie, Kaylee, Zana, and Ethan, are never forgotten, and the positive impacts that they have had on so many lives are never minimized, and that the love they shared, the light that they shined onto others is forever celebrated. As we sit here today, this case is ending, and we are now certain who committed these unspeakable acts of evil, but we don't know, and what we may never know is why. I share the desire expressed by others to understand the why. But upon reflection, it seems to me, and this is just my own opinion, that by continuing to focus on why, we continue to give Mr. Kohberger relevance. We give him agency and we give him power. The need to know what is inherently not understandable makes us dependent upon the defendant to provide us with a reason, and that gives him the spotlight, the attention, and the power he appears to crave. Yet even if I could force him to speak, which legally I cannot, how could anyone ever be assured that what he speaks is the truth? Do we really believe, after all of this, he's capable of speaking the truth or of giving up something of himself to help the very people whose lives he destroyed? Rather, I suspect the so-called reason would be dished out in enticing, self-serving, and aggrandizing, untruthful bits, leaving people wanting more information, more insight, and thus enhancing even further the power he seeks to hold. Even if we could get truthful insight into his why, I suspect it would not in any way quench one's thirst for actually understanding why in the first instance. Because there is no reason for these crimes that could approach anything resembling rationality. No conceivable reason could make any sense. And in the end, the more we struggle to seek explanation for the unexplainable, the more we try to extract a reason, the more power and control we give to him. In my view, the time has now come to end Mr. Kohberger's 15 minutes of fame. It's time that he be consigned to the ignominy and isolation of perpetual incarceration. I know there has been concern about him collaborating on books or movies or other media projects, and I truly hope that someone does not stoop to affording him this spotlight that he desires in the name of clicks, royalties, or profits. While criminal behavioralists should study him away from the spotlight in an attempt to prevent other would-be killers from acting on their worst impulses, there should be no need for that to spill over into the public eye. The great Idaho jurist Edward Lodge was known for trying to find something positive about every person he ever sentenced. And with over a half a century as a trial judge, that was a lot of people. This was often challenging, and I recall in one case he said that the best he could come up with was the defendant had good penmanship. Truth be told, I'm unable to come up with anything redeeming about Mr. Kohberger because his grotesque acts of evil have buried and hidden anything that might have been good or intrinsically human about him. His actions have made him the worst of the worst. Even in pleading guilty, he is giving nothing hinting of remorse or redemption, nothing suggesting even a recognition or understanding, let alone regret for the pain that he has caused. And therefore, I will not attempt to speak about him further, other than to simply sentence him so that he is forever removed from civilized society. And accordingly, based upon his conduct and based upon the record before this court, recognizing the standards that govern this court's sentencing decisions as set forth in State v. Toohill, I hereby sentence Mr. Kohberger as follows. On count 1, burglary, 10 years fixed, 0 years indeterminate. I also impose a fine of $50,000. Count 2, first-degree murder of Madison Mogen. I sentence the defendant to a fixed term of life imprisonment without the possibility of parole, a fine of $50,000, and a civil penalty of $5,000 payable to the family of the victim. On count 3, for first-degree murder of Christy Gonzalez, I sentence the defendant to a fixed term of life imprisonment without the possibility of parole, a fine of $50,000, and a civil penalty of $5,000 payable to the victim of the family, or to the family of the victim, pardon me. On count 4, for the first-degree murder of Zana Kernodal, I sentence the defendant to a fixed term of life imprisonment without the possibility of parole, a fine of $50,000, and a civil penalty of $5,000 payable to the family of the victim. On count 5, for the first-degree murder of Ethan Chapin, I sentence the defendant to a fixed term of life imprisonment without the possibility of parole, a fine of $50,000, and a civil penalty of $5,000 payable to the family of the victim. The sentences on counts 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 shall run consecutively to one another. Restitution will be left open for 60 days. Defendant will be required to submit a DNA sample and a right thumbprint impression to the Department of Corrections and comply with the DNA Database Act. I remand the defendant to the custody of the Idaho State Board of Corrections for to be imprisoned in an appropriate facility and execution of the sentence where he will remain until he dies. Though you've waived your right to appeal, you do have a right to file a notice of appeal. And any such appeal must be filed within 42 days of the date of the written judgment, which will be entered shortly hereafter. Though the appeal, you should be aware, may be deemed a violation of the plea agreement, and so I certainly suggest you discuss that with counsel if that is your desire. I ask the media and public present to allow the families to be escorted out first before they leave. Again, thank you to everyone for your stories today. I am strengthened by them, and I am encouraged by your humanity and strength, and God bless you. We're adjourned.
And with that, justice is served for the man who killed Kaylee Gonzalez, Madison Mogen, Zana Kernodal, and Ethan Chapin. And one of the most high-profile crimes in Idaho history has now come to a close. One of the biggest questions, the biggest question for the victim's family is why? That question was not answered in the sentencing hearing today. Joining me now is former King County Superior Court Judge Timothy Bradshaw, who's been watching this hearing with me. Your reaction to how this all went down?
So we wanted to know whether the murderer would speak. So the judge quickly told him he had that right. His attorneys glossed over that and quickly indicated that he would not take that opportunity. As we touched on before, he might be a person without empathy, and for him to do so perhaps would have been counterproductive. Maybe he feels no remorse, so how can he express it? There was a public suggestion, very public earlier, that he could be required to give answers, to speak. That's just not legally accurate.
Yes, all he said was, I respectfully decline, when asked if he had anything to say.
Right.
Prior to that, we've only heard him say the word guilty 5 different times.
That's right.
We heard from, in this hearing, from the family of Madison Mogen. We heard from the Gonzalez family, Kernodal family as well, and the 2 surviving roommates who were in the house at the time, and what a poignant picture of the 6 of them the day before these murders happened. When the judge talked about the fact that Kohberger has waived his right to appeal as part of this plea agreement, but he can file a motion to appeal. Explain that. What does that mean?
I think that's just a technicality indicating that he has that right. I think that would be, if he did that, it would be confined to solely challenge the entry of the guilty plea, which is why the judge was so thorough at that time, going through the colloquy with the defendant, that this was his own, out of his own free will, he wasn't coerced, etc.
The one question that a lot of people had is, can he profit from this, right? I mean, he got life in prison without the possibility of parole. He will go through all these appeals, but he could still technically profit from this, write a book, tell his story. The judge obviously addressed that, but he didn't prohibit him from doing so. Did that surprise you, and can the judge do that?
That was disappointing, and I was critical of that when I was here last at the guilty plea, because I believe the prosecuting attorney has the authority to require that as part of the plea bargain. The contract that is made at that time, that's a condition that could have been agreed to. So that begs the question whether on his own accord the judge had the authority today to simply impose that as a condition of the sentence, as a term of the sentence, that he cannot profit in any way from his story from the crimes. Or if he is compensated in any way, those funds would be earmarked for a victims organization or something like that. So I was listening. I was hoping that that would be the case. I don't know why it's not. I know that passes constitutional muster in the state of Washington. I don't know if there's a legal prohibition in Idaho. I doubt it, so I think that was a oversight, particularly because the judge referenced that as an issue. So I'm not sure why that wasn't anticipated.
The other surprising thing that you mentioned during this hearing when the prosecutor was talking is that he actually revealed that it was the defense that brought up the idea of a plea agreement, right? And that's usually confidential.
That's right. Obviously, the prosecutor seems thorough and well-meaning and honorable and genuine. It did seem as if he was taking the opportunity to explain himself, to explain why his office entered into this plea bargain in the first place. So the behind-the-scenes machinations are usually confidential. They definitely are in this state. So that was surprising too.
Well, and I think that surprised a lot of the victims' families. They were not anticipating this. They were getting ready for a trial.
Right.
And so that explains sort of how that unfolded and how they came to that agreement, right?
Obviously, he was trying to justify the plea bargain.
Yeah.
That's very clear,
Yeah, for sure. The one thing that was interesting is that there was only one person out of everybody who spoke today who actually offered Kohberger forgiveness, and that was Zana Kernodal's aunt the first time. I mean, we saw a range of emotions today from the victims' loved ones, for sure. And even the judge himself. You and I were talking during the break, wondering if he would actually say anything and address Kohberger, and he did.
He did.
What did you think of that? And as a judge who's been through these hearings before, how does that impact or affect the victims' families and or potentially the defendant?
So keep in mind the context here. So there's a trajectory of justice. There's a cadence to what we're doing in court. So we begin with the determination that we're going to presume this person innocent, and that is proper. The judge all along has been doing his best to rule, but ensuring due process. Then there's the determination of guilt. He obviously pled guilty. Today, there's a determination of what is justice, what is a proper sentence. So at this point, it becomes a bit awkward for a judge. The judge is sitting there. There's so much symbolism in what we just saw. The judge is in a black robe because that's to show neutrality, to ensure everyone's rights equally. At this point, that is shed, and he's talking about the impact of that guilt. So he didn't hold back.
Yeah, he didn't.
He called him evil, snake, and a coward. So obviously he felt comfortable doing that. But at the same time, it seems as if this defendant earned it.
Yeah. Judge, thank you very much for your insight. Appreciate it. Let's get to Jake Wittenberg, who is live outside the Ada County Courthouse right now. Jake, I see there's people behind you. Have you seen anybody come out of the courthouse at this point?
Yeah, hey there, Mimi. We're awaiting the family to exit the courthouse here and presumably head right to the podium behind us, where you can see there's just a large group of media, a huge number of media that are awaiting to hear what they have to say. When that happens, we'll go right to that. But I also have to say I was struck by what Mr. Bradshaw just said there about the emotion from the judge today. Really ending that hearing today with a punctuation mark. I especially was struck by the moment when Judge Hibbler pulled up the picture of the 4 of those students, reminding us that that picture was taken just hours before they were killed. And he was clearly emotional about it, having to pause several times, as we heard there, getting choked up as he talked about their lives, saying pointedly he is ending the 15 minutes of fame for Bryan Kohberger and relegating him to confinement and taking him away from civil society. Just the emotion that came at the end of this. And as you mentioned, Mimi, that sort of moment in the middle of that second session this morning after the Gonzalez family, we heard from the Kernodal family, Zana Kernodal's aunt and uncle, using the words of the defendant, Bryan Kohberger, just the only 2 times we heard that name all morning long, actually saying, as you mentioned, that they forgive him, even turning to Bryan Kohberger at one point and saying, call me, tell me what you were doing, and I will offer you forgiveness, which I thought was a very powerful moment as well. But they went right back into other family members who took the time to berate Kohberger, and in the end, Kohberger himself deciding not to speak, saying, quote, I respectfully decline, just 3 words.
Give us an idea, Jake. You've been there all morning long outside this courthouse. Keep in mind, this case was moved from Latah County to Ada County in Boise. It was the hearing in the largest courtroom there is in that courthouse, but this is a spectacle. I mean, there's been so much national media attention on this case, as you can see behind you. There's a number of media people who are there to cover this case. You've got bloggers and people who are, not necessarily journalists, but people who have an interest in the case trying to get into the courthouse. Describe the scene out there.
Yeah, maybe like you, been in the business many, many years, and every year you seem to see more and more media at events like these because of bloggers and publications. And so there's a tremendous amount of interest here. Yesterday, in the evening hours, the first 50 spots were already full nearly with really non-mainstream media and journalists looking to get inside, internet bloggers, internet sleuths who tried to get in to get a glimpse of this. In the end, it was sorted out, 50 people in, 50 members of the media in. Throughout the day, we've seen people driving by, honking their horns. We're all set up here on the sidewalk here on this main street outside of the Ada County Courthouse. We're seeing people, throngs of people come by just to get a glimpse of this spectacle out here because they know what's happening here in Boise. People waiting in line saying, I'm not connected to the University of Idaho. I'm not connected to anything except for just my interest in this case. So that has been very eye-opening, and it really lends itself to the gravity here. But really that punctuation mark from the judge, putting this all to a close, that's the end of the story. It's ending before lunch, which I think was a surprise to many.
Right. I mean, the judge did allow for this to potentially go into tomorrow, but the hearing has just wrapped up after about 2.5 hours. Again, we've heard from all of the victims' families except the Chapin family, who did not even offer a statement. You're looking now at Steve Gonzalez, who, wow, his statement was directed solely at Bryan Kohberger. He was the first one to turn that podium around and speak directly at him with anger and disgust. And we also heard from Kaylee's sister, Olivia, who also had a list of questions that she has been wondering for a long time. Jake, I think one of the things that we're going to potentially find out more about. We didn't necessarily get any answers today at today's hearing, but we could because the judge has lifted the gag order. It looks like someone's coming to the podium right now. Can we listen into this?
Thanks so much.
All right. It appears that...
Well, it's almost been 3 years, and today's the end of a long, hard-fought battle. But we have our person, and we have him where he belongs. So for that, we are thankful for all the men and women that put the work together, put this case together, and once it's part of the court system, it was a little ugly, but we got that conviction, and we're glad to be moving on. Glad we can move on.
But then, there's also the fact that, what would he tell as a lie as to opposed to the truth, so.
The knife, if he gave the knife up, or if he gave a part of his kill kit, if he gave out facts that only the killer would know.
It would corroborate things.
It would corroborate things, and he even addressed there's been way too many conspiracies, and the surviving witnesses had to go through hell. Well, no better way to protect them than by getting some of those details. If you got those details, then as simple as just saying I did it solo would have been, valuable, I think. And we stand by the negotiation wasn't justice. It was just it was a shortcut, and we said from the very beginning we're not interested in a shortcut for our daughter. We wanted everything.
Steve, you turned the podium at one point. Talk to us about why you wanted to stare him face down.
Because he's a coward. He's been protected by the court from day one, the minute that he was arrested. So I wanted to let him know that I was directing everything towards him, and his days of being protected are coming to an end. from what I've been explained, he gets on a van today, and he's got like 11, 12-minute ride, and then he'll be the responsibility of Idaho State.
Were you planning on turning the podium though, or did you do that as well?
You know, I remember reading it saying, "Do not move." So I was like, well, I'm moving this. I just kind of made that decision right then and there. So, you know, I want to make it as difficult as possible. I knew my daughter was going to do a speech, and I'd heard it, and I was like, he's going to hate this. He's going to hate this next set of people that are going to come forward and really rip into him and really expose him for what kind of a piece of trash he was. And we've been waiting a long time to say some of those things that needed to be said.
Stephen Jr., you chose not to speak. Speak now or anything?
I've written up a statement. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe this is where you do.
Okay. Well, allow me a second.
Maybe it wasn't court appropriate.
Yeah, it wasn't. Definitely wasn't. Yeah, my name's Steve Gonzalez. I'm Kaylee's older brother. She was my little sister, my friend, the middle child in the heart of our family. There are no words that can fully describe her spirit, but if you knew her, you knew joy, you knew light, you knew someone who made everything better just by being in the room. My statement was largely grounded in one goal, and that was to do everything for anyone who listens to this and has to go through something similar to not have to endure what we had. My family's fought tirelessly, not just for answers, but for accountability. We've stood in front of cameras, behind closed doors, and across from people who didn't want us to speak, but we did, and we won't stop now. Across nearly every murder case prosecuted by Bill Thompson, including the killing of University of Idaho football player Eric McMillan, there is a clear and troubling pattern. Families are left feeling unheard, justice is negotiated down through plea deals, and the public is left with unanswered questions. In the McMillan case, charges were reduced from first-degree to second-degree murder, prompting confusion and outrage from the victim's family and community. The same pattern is emerged in the Silas Parks and John Lee cases, both of which prosecuted by Bill Thompson, where capital-eligible crimes were resolved through plea agreements, sidestepping trials and diminishing public accountability. The most egregious of these crimes was the brutal killing of Whitney Parks, a young pregnant woman whose life was taken by her husband Silas Parks during a violent domestic assault. Whitney was only 22 years old when he was beaten and strangled in her own home, an act of cruelty that not only ended her life, but also the life of her unborn child. And yet, despite the devastating nature of this crime, Bill Thompson reduced the charges from murder to voluntary manslaughter, ultimately securing a sentence that allowed Parks the possibility of parole after just 5 years. There was no trial, no full accounting of what Whitney endured, no acknowledgement in the legal outcomes of the child she was carrying. For Whitney's family, and for anyone who believes that justice system should speak forcefully for victims, this wasn't justice. It was a deal, and it was like so many others under Thompson's watch. It prioritized expedience over accountability. Now, almost predictably, we find ourselves reliving that pattern in the current case. Despite the magnitude and brutality of the crime, the prosecution chose to accept a plea deal behind closed doors, without trial, without ever consulting our family in any meaningful way. In fact, we learned from the plea deal that had been finalized from an email from the prosecution team. Not in person, not with warning, not with respect. That moment underscored what we feared all along, and that this case was following the same well-worn path toward expedience over justice. Sentencing once again fails to reflect the severity of the act, and the emotional fallout has landed again on the shoulders of the victims' families, who have been left out, unheard, and grieving not just a horrific loss, but a system that continues to bypass them. The through line is undeniable. Whether it's 2004 or 2025, this prosecutional, is that a word? Sorry. Prosecutional approach has consistently abandoned the very approach it is, or the very people it is supposed to protect. The trend you'll notice from Thompson's prosecuted crimes are the following: plea bargains avoiding capital punishment, charge reductions, sentences that misalign with the gravity of the crime, lack of trial due to plea bargains. These aren't just failures in process, They're failures that have real consequences for real people. After reviewing Bill Thompson's history, it's clear our family was never given a fair chance at justice. But this isn't just about a prosecutor's record. It's about Kaylee. It's about my sister. She's not just one of the Idaho 4. She was a daughter, a sister, a best friend, and the light in every room she walked into. When the prosecution followed the same path we've seen before, closed doors, limited input, and a plea deal handed down without our voice, it became painfully clear that Kaylee was being treated just like another case. But she wasn't. She was everything to us, and our pain has only deepened, knowing that the system didn't fight for her the way she deserved. I'll leave everyone with this. There's 1,000 things I wish I could say to Kaylee, but today I'll just say this. I will always carry her with me for the rest of my life, and I will never stop being her brother.
Steve,
thank you.
Now that the gag order is lifted, is there anything that you learned over the last 2.5 years from the investigators or the prosecutors that you can share with us now that you can speak about?
Well, I think it was kind of interesting that once the president sent a truth statement out, they called us right up and they told us everything. So I don't know what was holding them back before, but we spent about 3 hours, close to 3 hours with the lead detectives, and yeah, we found because our main thing was we didn't want to have victims advocate statements that had lies and misquotes and misinformation in it. So I appreciate the president, putting a little bit of pressure on there, and it seemed to work. Up until that time, they told us they were not going to tell us, and we were going to have to just wait for for the things to be unsealed. But yeah, it was horrific what Kaylee went through. Yeah, and I don't want to protect this guy, but I won't give out all the details. I'll be general. But yeah, she was stabbed over 30 plus times, and she was struck, and there was quite a bit of damage to her face. So this guy's just an absolute monster. Anyone who thinks that he's otherwise, I just looked at pure demons out there. When I was looking at him, we had a stare down, and he's just filled with demons. He's dark pits of eyes, and there's something seriously wrong with that man.
Steve, why was it important for you to look him directly in the eyes? And what did you see as you spoke to him?
I looked him straight in the eyes, and I just seen black holes and just anger at me. He was telling me with his face that he fucking hated me. He absolutely fucking hated me.
And why did you want to speak to him directly that way?
It's the most personal one. Like,
Yeah,
look at
yeah,
me in my eyes. You took my daughter's life. Look at me.
Yeah,
Did your family get something today that it needed?
Yeah, 100%.
It's a little early to actually even answer that for myself. I think that kind of stuff needs to set in and sink in, and you regret maybe saying some things, or you wish that you would have said things. So I think right now we're just kind of in the mix of the tornado and the real feelings.
As the spotlight then fades, what do you want the public to remember?
Our main thing is hopefully this could be a template for another family that, you can use the media as much as they're using you. You can use it to keep people accountable, keep people honest, keep the court system, treating you with a little bit of respect. And I think that's what we did. And the more that you get active, I think the more chance that you're going to get that justice in the end. I think you really got to try to make your kids stand out, or whoever you're trying to protect, you make them real. Get on the internet and talk to people.
Before you go, and I know you want to go, I want to ask, Olivia today was spectacular. But Olivia asked a question. What was the unrelenting on my sister? Despite this meeting you had with the prosecutors, there still sounds like there's something you don't know there. Can you explain that?
No, we do know that another weapon was used on Kaylee. So we don't know what that weapon was, but
They didn't recover it.
along with the knife wasn't recovered. But Kaylee was not just stabbed. There was other things that happened to Kaylee.
Talk about that a little. The conversation we had with the prosecution was about healing more than anything. It was about giving the victims' families answers. And they may share some of that information at a later date, but today is not the day for that. Today is about the sentencing. It's about putting the defendant in prison for the rest of his life. So there may be more details to come about that, but that conversation that they had was about the healing process and finding some answers that they had. And so we may share at a later date, but today's not the day, okay?
Thank you guys for being available.
Thanks.
So the Gonzalez family is the first family that we've heard from outside the courthouse since the sentencing hearing for Kohberger has ended. Steve Gonzalez, Kaylee's father, revealing that they spent about 3 hours with detectives who told them many, many more details about what happened during the murders that night, revealing that Kaylee was stabbed 30 times. And then you heard Kaylee's mother say that she learned there was another weapon used on Kaylee. Now that the gag order's been lifted, we are likely going to hear a lot more details from investigators, and we're awaiting a press conference. We're expecting to hear from the prosecutor and detectives in the case inside the courthouse any moment now. So before we get to that, let's get to Jake Wittenberg, who's outside the courthouse right now. Jake?
Yeah, I mean, a very revealing moment here from Steve and Christy Gonzalez about the condition of their daughter, hinting there's more to come out of that gag order that you just mentioned. Another piece of that moment there that I found striking was this stare down that Steve Gonzalez said he had with Kohberger in the courtroom. We at one point saw him turn the podium away from its original position and toward Kohberger during his victim impact statement this morning to speak directly to Kohberger, which was a very revealing moment as well, very powerful moment. Sebastian Robertson was in the courtroom. What a powerful moment that was. What struck you in the courtroom this morning? What was that like?
Well, my big takeaway was that today, it seemed from the family and the judge and the prosecuting attorney, that today would be the last full day of focusing on Bryan Kohberger. The judge at one point said there's no need to continue to give him the attention that he clearly thrives on and needs in his life. That being said, there were very many memories shared of the girls, of Ethan, sweet moments throughout their young lives and adult lives. But there was really, and I struggle with the right words, but like vitriol anger, just raw anger aimed at Bryan Kohberger. Some of it illustrated better than others, but I think the Gonzalez family is a good example of that. Her father, you could tell, had been preparing, perhaps maybe even hoping to have this moment, maybe a little bit of relief that yes, they have his daughter's killer, but he can also address him man to man in the courtroom. Kohberger, a little bit of a shift from what we've seen previously. Kohberger was in jail shackles. His hands were shackled. He was wearing the orange jumpsuit, and he stopped stone-faced.
All right, I just want to interrupt Sebastian right now because we're hearing from Mogen's family right now in front of the microphones. Let's listen in.
Defendant to the maximum allowable sentence under the plea agreement. The sentence will ensure that this evil will never again terrorize a family as he did ours and 3 others. Trial would have involved risks. Had the defendant been convicted, he may not have been given the death penalty. Had he been convicted of the death penalty, we would have had to endure years, maybe even decades of appeals. This way, his fate is sealed. Society is protected, and we can move on with our lives and attempt to recover. Maddie was our purpose and our hope. We remain lost without her, but we will find our way. Thank you.
So that's Madison Mogen's stepfather, who sounds like he was saying that the family is pleased about this plea agreement and the outcome of this case, whereas on the contrast, Steve Gonzalez, as the Gonzalez family, as well as Kaylee's brother, who we just heard from as well, said this was not justice. This was a deal, is what he said. Let's get back to Jake and Sebastian outside. Are we expecting to hear from potentially all of the victims' families after the hearing's over?
Yeah, as you asked that, Mimi, I am looking behind me. They did have a line of family members waiting to come out of the courthouse to address media at the podium. I do not see any other family members waiting to do so, so that may be it. So the family has gone back inside the courthouse. That was Scott Laramie, Maddie's stepfather, whom he said raised her since she was 2 years old, and just talked about an endless void. In the courtroom this morning, Sebastian, where you were throughout this hearing, I'm curious, what were some of the most striking moments for you? At what moment, what received the biggest sort of reaction in your view?
Well, touching on Scott Laramie, he's the stepfather of Maddie Mogen. He spoke alongside his wife, Karen, who is Maddie's mother. They came out and flat out said, speaking about the plea deal, they said they support the plea deal. They said it helps them to know that Maddie is in heaven, and they continue to live life in support of her. And they say that the law allows them, during this kind of unique setting, to confront the victim directly. Almost all the family members addressed Bryan Kohberger in person. They said that society needs to be protected from this evil, but they said for the defendant, we will not waste our words. Evil does not deserve our time and attention, and they ended their statement by saying, we're done being the victims and we're taking back our lives. That's something that the DA and the judge both touched on specifically. The judge came out at the very end. The last things he said is there's so much fixation in this case as to why this happened, what was inside Bryan Kohberger's brain. But he said that desire for why, and he said this is his opinion as a judge, but he said the desire for why gives Bryan Kohberger the power. It makes it so the world needs to depend on him to continue telling his story. And his consensus was that this man needs to die in prison. He's now in the custody of the Department of Corrections, and that's where he will live the rest of his natural life with 4 consecutive life sentences.
And so many times today we heard, we're forgetting about you, we're not using your name from this day forward, we're not thinking about you, but this is obviously something that's going to haunt these families forever. I mean, it's been 2.5 years of getting to this point, and now there has to be this sort of sense of now what? Now what? Filling that sort of void. Mimi, we'll get it back to you for now, but these moments in the courtroom, I would say that we're latching onto and talking about here, I'm sure struck you as well and everyone at home throughout this really emotional testimony.
Yeah, and I did want to ask Sebastian, since you were inside, were you able to see Kohberger's mother at all? It appears from NBC News reporting that she was in the courtroom and was reacting to some of the victim impact statements that were given.
So I'll touch a little bit on the process of this. There was so much interest in this case, not just from media, but members of the public. I spoke to one woman who drove from Utah, and she's a member of the public. She's not affiliated with the media. She's not related to any of the family members, but she wanted to be here to witness this in person. So that being said, court seats were reserved for families, friends, those who were involved in the trial. The remaining seats, about 50 or so, were given to a remaining pool of about 100 people. So our Boise station was able to be inside of the courtroom. Myself and about 60 other members of the media and the public were in an overflow room. So I was not able to see the reports of Bryan Kohberger's mother, but I will say that during the victim impact statement, and I'm looking to see if I can find who said it, one gentleman that spoke, Zana's uncle, talked about the impact that this will have on the Kohberger family for generations. He says that he has to live not only with being a killer, but knowing that there is, and it sounds a little antiquated, but saying that there is shame with his family name and the pain that this has caused on the ripple effect of everyone from his mother to, you have to think distant relatives.
So much pain involved on all sides. That was probably the only time throughout this whole hearing we heard any reference to Kohberger's family and really any empathy whatsoever to him. As we mentioned earlier, his name was uttered twice throughout this entire process. 15 speakers by my count. We heard the name Bryan said twice by the victims in their impact statements. And those were both from the Kernodal family actually forgiving Bryan Kohberger, which is just such a feeling that you can't even imagine. They are deeply rooted in faith, and that's where that comes from.
There was a touching moment where one of the two that forgave said, "I'm forgiving you to turn you over to the Lord, who ultimately, will deal with you." And it was this sense of, I'm forgiving you to take this burden off of me so I can go on and live my life and remember these four, and then put the burden onto you to do whatever it is you want to do with it.
Seen several sentencings in our careers. I'm not sure I've ever seen a judge, in this case Judge Hippler, with such emotion, really breaking down several times, having to wipe his eyes, fighting back tears throughout the final sentencing when he handed in those 4 consecutive life sentences. I'm not sure if you noticed this, but in the courtroom there was a camera fixed on Kohberger, but when the judge began talking about the children that were killed, that camera went away and they flipped it to pictures of the students. And so there was this moment that the judge sort of almost stage managed to make sure that the kids, the victims, were given their due. I thought that was very powerful.
Yeah, that was Bill Thompson, the Layton County prosecutor, and he kind of, the same way attorneys will prepare for opening statements and kind of do a presentation with visual aids. That was kind of.
It's really stuck in my mind, and I put this on my social media accounts this morning. That one picture with the 4 victims, and I didn't really realize this, but it was taken just hours before the murders, and it makes it all the more just gut-wrenching.
Yeah, Bill Thompson saying that picture was taken November 12th, 2022. It shows all the roommates. I think there were 6 total, and that includes Ethan, who was dating one of the girls, but was essentially a roommate there. Thompson said this picture was taken November 12th of a special family on 1122 King Road. All 6 of these people, dynamic, innocent faces, and he says that was taken barely 12 hours before the 4 of them would be murdered in the street. And that was kind of his final sentiment before asking the judge to impose what Kohberger agreed to, but to kind of finally put it in writing and put Bryan Kohberger in prison for the rest of his natural life.
Yeah. All of this happening before lunch, Mimi. We'll send it back to you for now as we await the days and weeks to come, potentially, now that gag order is lifted. We may get new details about this case, but as all the families have said, that's for a later day.
Jake and Sebastian, thanks so much. Yeah, we are expecting to hear from the prosecutor as well as some detectives with Moscow police in just a moment. So we'll go to that as soon as that happens. But that picture that Sebastian and Jake were just talking about was one that was taken the day before the murders of all 6 roommates, the roommates plus Ethan Chapin. And we have to remember, these 2 roommates that survived this, their lives have been changed forever. And we heard from one of the surviving roommates, Dylan Mortonson, this morning in a very emotional statement that she gave. Here's a piece of it.
What happened that night changed everything. Because of him, 4 beautiful, genuine, compassionate people were taken from this world for no reason. He didn't just take their lives. He took the light they carried it into every room. He took away how they made everyone feel safe, loved, and full of joy. He took away the ability for me to tell him that I love him and that I'm so proud of them.
So again, that was Dylan Mortonson, one of the surviving roommates. She was the one who saw Kohberger in a mask inside the house at the time of the murders. I'm joined now by former King County Superior Court Judge Timothy Bradshaw, who's been watching this hearing all morning long. I want to talk about the gag order that has just been lifted. What does that mean? I mean, does that mean that it sounds like these family members were able to talk to detectives? They revealed pretty much everything they know about what happened. Are we going to hear all of that too?
Most of it, not all of it, would be my guess. And as far as the timing and the circumstances of revealing certain details to the victim's family, and we heard an example of that, I hope they had a trauma specialist, a victim advocate there with them, because there needs to be some, emotional shield how you communicate all that.
Yeah.
As far as the gag order, I didn't understand why it wasn't lifted after the guilty plea, because that's the basis for having a gag order, is pretty much concerned about impact on a future jury.
Right.
So there was no jury, so I don't understand why it's taken so long as it is. When these materials are released, they'll be subject to redaction. So certain privacy elements, and you would think things that would just really invade the victims' families' concerns and province and feelings of protecting their loved ones still. You'd think that that would still apply.
Do you think that we're going to hear more about the evidence that prosecutors had and detectives collected that they were going to be used in the trial against Kohberger? And obviously, the defense went through a lot of motions to try to, you know, to compete against all that, even offering up the fact that he wasn't there or someone else's DNA, that sort of thing. So, are we going to hear more about that?
Yes. My guess is, based on experience, that'll be a slow reveal. So many people have access to these materials and access to that knowledge that it just tends to, over time, it surfaces.
Okay. You heard from the Gonzalez family, specifically Steve Gonzalez, and from Kaylee's brother as well, Stephen. Really critical of the prosecution. So we're going to get to more on that in just a second. But first, let's hear from Moscow police.
Of a case that has profoundly impacted the University of Idaho, the city of Moscow, the state of Idaho, and communities nationwide. Today's sentencing of Bryan Kohberger brings the legal process to a close following his conviction for the brutal murders of Christy Gonzalez, Madison Mogen, Zana Kernodal, and Ethan Chapin. While this marks the end of a long and challenging journey through the criminal justice system, we acknowledge that for the families, friends, and loved ones of these four young people, the grief does not end, because the losses are permanent and the pain remains. We want to express our deepest gratitude for their strength and resilience during this challenging time. We will honor their loved ones' memories and reaffirm our commitment to ensuring their lives are not forgotten. This investigation, one of the most complex and high-profile cases in our state's history, was made possible by an extraordinary level of collaboration. From local and state police officers to federal agents and analysts, as well as prosecutors, forensics teams, and technical experts. It also took immense courage, patience, and resilience from a grieving community whose role was invaluable. From the very beginning of this tragedy, Moscow Police Department and our law enforcement partners never lost sight of the mission, which was to bring justice for the victims and their families, and to hold accountable the person who committed these horrible crimes. Despite the complexity of this case, our team never wavered, they never gave up, and we completed the mission. During this investigation, I was fortunate to witness the level of professionalism, expertise, drive, and passion that each member of the investigative team brought to the overall effort. And it was truly awe-inspiring. To all who came to our aid and assisted in this immense undertaking, I cannot express my gratitude enough. We are forever thankful. And I would be remiss if I did not thank the amazing communities of Moscow and the University of Idaho. For weeks on end during this investigation, the support you provided to our team was greatly appreciated. The numerous phone calls, letters, and seemingly endless stream of food helped keep our spirits high and encouraged us to press on. Today, we want to provide an opportunity to hear from the key agencies involved in the investigation, prosecution, and overall response to this case. Each agency played a vital role in pursuit of truth and accountability. Further remarks will be provided by the Latah County Prosecutor's Office, followed by the Idaho State Police, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and the Office of the Attorney General. Each speaker will provide brief comments, followed by a limited Q&A session. With that, I'd like to introduce Latah County Prosecutor Bill Thompson, representing the Latah County Prosecutor's Office.
Thank you, Anthony.
Welcome, everybody. It's been a long time since we've been able to stand in the same room together, and you have to listen to me talk. I'm sorry. First off, I want to thank the folks here in Ada County. I can tell you I would much prefer to be in Latah County right now and be able to talk to the people most directly impacted by this. But Ada County has been a phenomenal support and protector for the integrity of this case, and I just want to send that shout out right now. So today, you are all, I think, listening in, either in person or with the live stream. We have reached the conclusion of the judicial process, and we believe we've achieved accountability and finality and certainty for everyone who has suffered from this, so we can try to move on. As you are aware, Mr. Kohberger pleaded guilty to all 5 counts of the indictment. He pleaded guilty as charged. There was no plea bargain to change charges, drop charges. He pleaded guilty straight up, and he admitted under oath to Judge Hippler that the allegations are true. He has also received a life and death sentence, and that he is going into the Department of Corrections custody, and he will remain there until he dies. And our communities are protected from him. Our communities are safe from him, and we have finality and conclusion, not just for the families, but for everyone who suffered because of this. Chief Dollinger talked about the extraordinary teamwork on this case, and I can tell you that Ashley Jennings, my senior deputy, and I, we were with the investigators from day one. We worked as a team beyond any team that I've seen in my almost 33 years as a Latah County prosecutor and 45 years as an attorney in Idaho. This level of collaboration is indescribably phenomenal. And in this room, we have representatives of the FBI, and you'll hear, of course, Special Agent Grover. We have representatives from the Idaho State Police. We have representatives from the Moscow Police Department. We have representatives from the Office of the Idaho Attorney General. I can tell you, I will be forever grateful for the assistance that Jeff Nye, the head of the criminal division, and his deputy attorneys general, Ingrid Maddie, standing beside him, offered to us. I don't know that we would have been able to reach the conclusion that we have today as successfully without their brilliant and dedicated work. And they too have lived this case from the get-go. Our hearts and prayers go out to the families, not just the immediate biological or legal families, but the university family, the 1122 King Street family. You all saw the group picture, and you've seen that group picture so many times over the past 2.5 years. And now you have real faces to go with those young, vibrant people who, 4 of whom were killed 12 hours, half day after that picture was taken. We respect the families. We realize that we had tough decisions to make, and we made them, but we did not make them in a vacuum. As I said in court today, we reached out to the families. We asked their thoughts. We listened to what they had to say. We accept and recognize that not everybody agrees with the decision we made. But this isn't a popularity contest. And we made what we thought was the most appropriate decision under the law and on the facts to give this case closure in a sense that would never be realized otherwise. Judge Hippler talked today about, I guess, the fallacy of expecting that there would be some miraculous coming clean and disclosure from the defendant. In the first instance, as the judge said, he doesn't have the power to compel that. We, the state, don't have the power to compel that. And as a practical matter, it would not be helpful. It would give him a forum to share whatever he thought to control the dialogue. Not going to happen to our victims. We can't allow that to happen. So, I'll say this with caution. I look forward to your questions. I will be perfectly honest with you. I will answer them as best I can. If I can't tell you the answer to something, I'll tell you that. And I ask for your assistance and your respect as we walk through that, because there are still people who are suffering, and I'm not going to victimize families. I'm not going to victimize the deceased again. And I'll just tell you that if we get those sorts of questions. But we'll get to that in a little bit. Right now, what I would like to do is hand the podium over to Colonel Bill Gardner from the Idaho State Police so he can share his agency's perspective on this. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Colonel Bill Gardner, Director of the Idaho State Police. To the families, your courage and strength throughout this painful process, it indeed kept us moving forward. Your strength, and particularly your love for one another, was inspiring, and it motivated all of us. You've carried a burden no one should ever have to bear. This investigation demanded the very best from everyone involved. Crime scene teams, forensic scientists, intelligence analysts, and investigators answered the call with professionalism, precision, and resolve. They did not do it for recognition. They did it because 4 innocent lives were taken, and the victims and their families deserve nothing less. It is clear this case required a team approach. Not only did the Moscow Police Department, the Latah County Sheriff's Office, the Idaho State Police, and the FBI come together quickly, but others provided significant assistance behind the scenes. I'd like to highlight a few of those. I personally want to thank Colonel Paris of the Pennsylvania State Police. Once this case moved across the country, the Pennsylvania State Police went out of their way to provide resources and support while our people were on the ground there. Also, it's important to note that from the moment this case began, Governor Little was fully supportive of the investigative process. He provided funding and support to make sure the job was done right. And finally, as was already mentioned, the Idaho Attorney General's office provided significant input and help during the preliminary motions. We relied heavily upon their expertise as we moved throughout this whole process. As law enforcement officers, we often say that this is more than a job, it's a calling. This case reminds us why we answer that call, why we stand for victims, why we fight. In this case, why we fight pure evil, and why we keep going, even when the road is long and answers are hard to find. In this horrific case, I am proud of the work that was done and the people who carried it out. They exemplified the very best of our profession and helped to bring closure to 4 families. I'll now turn the podium over to Salt Lake City FBI Field Office Supervisory Senior Resident Agent Brett Grover.
Good afternoon. My name is Brett Grover. I'm the Supervisory Senior Resident Agent in our Coeur d'Alene office of the FBI, which is part of our FBI Salt Lake City division. On behalf of the FBI, we offer our deepest condolences to the families of Madison Mogen, Christy Gonzalez, Zana Kernodal, and Ethan Chapin. The culmination of this case was a long time coming, and we hope the victims' families and friends have some sense of peace in knowing that Bryan Kohberger is being held responsible and accountable for his heinous actions. The FBI is proud to have supported the Moscow Police Department in the state of Idaho with the investigation and prosecution of this case. Countless hours have gone into this investigation. The FBI dedicated significant resources to include digital and forensic analysis, intelligence support from our folks at FBI headquarters and field offices around the country, and victim services, which continue to this day. Today's sentencing also demonstrates how the responsible use of investigative genetic genealogy, or IgG, can transform a crime scene into accountability and closure. The IgG process involves the use of DNA analysis combined with traditional genealogy research to generate investigative leads for unsolved violent crimes. In late 2022, IgG provided a crucial investigative direction for investigators working this case. But I want to be clear, IgG was just one tool that led us here today. It's a powerful complement to the core investigative work done by both the FBI and our partner agencies. The bottom line is that successful cases like this are about strong partnerships and a shared goal, the goal of keeping our communities safe and providing a measure of justice for the families of our victims. Thank you. I'll now turn the time over to the Attorney General for the state of Idaho.
Good afternoon. I'm Raul Labrador. I'm the Attorney General of the state of Idaho. Today's a heavy day for the families who lost their children, for the community of Moscow, and for the entire state of Idaho. With the sentencing today, a painful chapter closes in one of the darkest and most heartbreaking moments in our state's history. We're here because 4 young lives were stolen from us far too soon. They were full of promise, they had dreams and aspirations, people who loved them, and communities that believed in them. Their loss is immeasurable. Their absence is felt every day, not only by their families, but by classmates, friends, neighbors, and all of us who came to know their names and their stories. There is no sentence that can bring true justice for this kind of evil. Nothing we do today can undo the heartache or fill the empty chairs at family tables. But today's sentencing ensures one thing, that the perpetrator will never again walk free. In fact, he will never harm another family. I want to extend my deepest gratitude to Prosecutor Bill Thompson, whose steady leadership has guided this case from the beginning, to the people of Latah County for their trust and commitment to justice, and to the state of Idaho, and to the state, also to the local and federal law enforcement communities who have been focused on bringing justice for the victims. I also want to recognize Jeff Nye, who's the chief of my office's criminal law division, and the team of attorneys in my office who work side by side with local prosecutors. Their contributions were quiet but vital. They helped protect the grand jury's work. They pushed back against legal challenges and successfully defended the use of advanced forensic tools that helped identify Kohberger. These were groundbreaking legal efforts done with resolve, with care, and in the name of public safety. Their outstanding legal work spared the families and the public from a drawn-out, painful trial that would have reopened wounds and prolonged the family's agony. When I became the Attorney General 2.5 years ago, I interviewed Jeff Nye. He was not the chief of the criminal division at the time. And I asked him if there was anything he would change in the Office of Attorney General. If you get to know Jeff, he had a long list. It was a very long list of things that he would change in the criminal division. But the first thing he talked about was the fact that our office was not helping local prosecutors with their prosecution. It was a take it or leave it kind of approach, that we either took the case and handled all the matter, or we did nothing at all. And he said that there were important cases where we could actually assist in the Office of Attorney General. It's one of the reasons I hired him to be my chief of the criminal division, and I think today culminates the wise decision that he had to make those changes and the important change that we made in the office. This moment didn't come easily. It was the result of tireless effort, careful preparation, and unwavering pursuit of the truth. Behind the scenes, our legal teams worked diligently to defend dozens of legal challenges. Their efforts not only helped ensure a just outcome, they also spared the families and the community from the painful trial and endless appeals that would have reopened deep wounds. To the families of Madison, Kaylee, Zana, and Ethan, no words from any of us, no legal ruling, and no sentence from a judge can heal what you've endured. But I want you to know this. My sincere wish is that you have not carried this burden alone. Idaho grieves with you, Idaho stands with you, and your children's names will not be forgotten. We honor them, not only with our words today, but with our commitment to protecting others in their memory. I will never stop fighting for the people of Idaho, and I thank every single member of this community who has just reached out to the families and supported them. And may God bless the souls of the victims and the families who have suffered.
Thank you. Now we will transition into our question and answer phase. Joining me at the podium will be Bill Thompson from the Prosecutor's Office and the two lead investigators, Brett Payne and Darren Gilbertson. Just a couple of things before we begin. We recognize that everyone has a lot of questions. We're going to try to do our best to get to as many as we possibly can. Also, keep in mind that there are still some things that we are unable to talk about because of either privacy interests for the victims and their families and/or they are under seal currently in the court. So if those items do come up, then that will certainly be the answer that you will receive. And to keep this sort of orderly, I will try to be the one to point out who's got their hands up. Right there. Yes.
With CREM 2 in Spokane. What more can you tell us about the release documents that the police department is working on putting online, and what can we expect from that?
Certainly. As we put out in that press release, I hope everybody can understand the immense amount of information that's in this investigation is going to take a lot of time to prepare. It has to be gone through legally to be redacted or figured out whether or not it can actually be released. So I did get word today. It sounds like our website will be going live hopefully this afternoon. There should be another press release coming out in the next few hours to show that website so that people can start accessing that. Initially, what is going to be on there, and certainly this is just for the Moscow Police Department because we're only the holders of our records, but it will be all of our police reports from this investigation. So just the documents there. They'll be redacted, ready to go, again, free of charge for the public. We want to be as transparent as we possibly can, so we wanted to get those out to everyone.
Chief, from the very beginning, your department was saying this was a targeted attack. Can you now say who was the target and what's your evidence to show that?
I'll turn that question over to the investigators to answer that one.
Well, I think Darren and I have, the evidence suggests that there was a reason that this particular house was chosen. What that reason is, we don't know. We don't know who the target was, and we're not going to speculate on that up here today. But we can tell you that for whatever reason, Mr. Kohberger chose that residence. Perhaps it's the location, layout, we don't know. But that's, to the best of my knowledge, that's what that statement likely led to.
During Haley got third page too, there was a social media account that surfaced that has long had speculation that it was Bryan Kohberger. Can you talk at all about the Papa Roger potential connection, if any?
Right, there was no connection. There wasn't at all. We looked into every bit of it. We took a deep dive into it. We researched it. We utilized. It was not. It was not. Thank you. We can cut that off.
Is it possible that there was a second murder weapon used, not just the knife?
Is it possible? All the evidence shows and tells us that he used a knife, a K-bar knife, and that's a weapon we believe was used to commit all the murders.
Here.
It sounded like the Gonzalez family said that there was a second weapon that was used on Kaylee Gonzalez. Can you confirm or deny that?
Out of respect for the families, that's something that you'll have to get from them. If they wish to share that with you, it'd probably be through them, not through us.
And one more question. You said that it seemed like he chose that house. There's no clues as to why he chose that house?
You know, after working in Moscow for several years as Chief Dollinger, that area is frequented by many, many people at all hours of the night when college is in session. So what Darren and I have surmised is that perhaps it's the old hiding in plain sight. There's lots of people around, there's lots of vehicles around at all hours. It's not isolated where you'd be noticed, so that's where that comment comes from.
It does, and no, it doesn't make sense, and it's if you were in that neighborhood at all, it's a very complicated neighborhood. It's very closed in, but at the same time, there's everything from college kids to adults that live there, people that have full-time jobs, part-time jobs, so any one of us could come and go and fit in there, so.
Frank here.
D.A. Thompson, during the plea hearing and then again today, it seemed like your voice quivered a bit when you were either putting up photographs or mentioning the victims' names, and just wondering about the emotional toll. And I have one other question.
Yeah, you're right. My voice was quivering. Y'all were in there. There was a lot of powerful emotion. The losses are almost indescribable. And maybe my filters aren't as good as they might have been 45 years ago when I started in this business. But I think you also saw that even Judge Hippler was affected and impacted by this. There is no easy way to remain stiff-lipped and dry-eyed through this kind of tragedy. There just simply isn't.
I'm sure you're not aware of this yet, but there was a photograph, or they zoomed in on a picture that Bryan Kohberger had on the defense counsel table, and it was an image of a black heart. I don't know if you've heard this or if you've seen the image. Hearing this, your thoughts?
First I've heard of it. There is something I need to say though real quick. This is a product of, I'm sure I'm getting old in my failed memory, but there's one other person I need to recognize, and this is very important to us because this was a key person that was going to take us through trial, and that's Josh Hurwitz, the former United States Attorney for the District of Idaho who left office and voluntarily joined our office as a special deputy to help us. My apologies for the oversight as I wasn't reading my notes correctly, but thank you for that little interlude. Chief? Yes.
I guess my question is for Mr. Thompson, since you're still up there, incidentally he was law and crime. You said that, it was your decision to accept this plea agreement. It brings finality, people die in prison, but Corporal Payne just said they don't know who the target was and why he targeted this house. Was there a reason why, as part of the plea agreement, you didn't require Ann Taylor to have her client sit down with you all and to answer some of these questions?
I think that Judge Hippler addressed that today very, very well. Of course, Judge Hippler addresses everything very well, we found. The law does not give the court or us the power to require a specific factual allocution. And just let me finish. And we recognize that. We recognize that we could have said, well, in order for us to move forward, we want a factual allocution. But I have to be perfectly candid. I don't believe that there is anything that would come out of his mouth that would be the truth. I don't believe that there's anything that would come out of his mouth that would be anything other than self-serving. And I don't believe there's anything that would come out of his mouth that would not further victimize the families. And so that just simply wasn't a factor. We made our decision based on our assessment of law and the facts. We made our decision based on being able to obtain accountability and certainty, not just for the victims' families, but for the communities and for the state. And that's where our obligations go. In the end, and the old Harry Truman thing, the buck stops on my desk. Well, that's what I got when I was elected prosecutor 33 years ago. I never dreamed it would involve something like this. But we don't shirk our responsibilities just because it got big and nasty.
Thank you. Corporal Payne and Lieutenant Mortonson, first of all, I want to say to you, Corporal Payne, that the chief and family told me that you called them every night during that nearly 7-week manhunt, even though you didn't have to. And I just think that goes to show that there's some truth in this. So, that being said, I'm curious as to where you think or believe the murder weapon is, where you think or believe the clothes Kohberger was wearing that night are, and how do you think he avoided forensics?
Well, I can just tell you, and forgive us if we go back and forth, it's just kind of how we roll. But there is no evidence that we found that would lead us to any specific, even general location as to where the murder weapon or the clothes have been. And we searched. I mean, we The FBI, again, to their credit, we had folks doing soil samples and so all sorts of things to try to come up with somewhere to start searching for these things, and we just never found it. As far as the forensics piece, I'll let Darren speak to that.
And on the weapon, it wasn't a lack of trying. Everywhere that we had evidence of where he went, based upon phone records, based upon the evidence that we had gathered, we searched that. We went there. We did searches on the ground, in the water. We did searches. We sent soil samples to try to figure out maybe where a shovel had been used. So we searched everywhere that we possibly could, but the reality is we're looking for a singular small, it's not that small, but K-bar knife, and that's it. So it's endless of where it could have been, and we just were not able to find it. So.
What about the clothes and his ability to avoid forensics at the scene, in a murder scene where we now know Olivia Gonzalez was stabbed 34 times and then another victim was stabbed more than that?
Right. So the reality is that somebody can carry this out and still not get covered in blood. That's the reality of it, and this does happen, and there's plenty of studies of that. And we've had some of the world's experts that we've asked those same questions because we've struggled with that. Why do we not find more here and there? And the reality was, if somebody has the training, if somebody has thought about it, if somebody wears the right type of clothing, that could be the outcome, and that's what we were left with.
Good. Over here.
Jean Casares with CNN. Mr. Thompson, did you do psychological testing on Bryan Kohberger? Did that weigh into your decision to have a plea deal? And stabbings, multiple stabbings are very personal. How did you assess that mode of murder?
I can tell you that psychological testing was done with Mr. Kohberger. The results of that do not rise to a defense to his conduct under Idaho law. The results of the various testing, most of it done by the defense or on behalf of the defense, it's also sealed by court order. So I can't speak to any specifics, but I can tell you, yes, psychological testing was done. I can also tell you that no, psychological testing or any potential psychological condition of Mr. Kohberger, that did not play a role in our decision.
Bill, does it have any bearing on where he will be placed or housed?
Where Mr. Kohberger, where the defendant is going to be housed, is going to be up to the Idaho Department of Correction. And that could very well change over time. And the reality is we will know about it after it happens.
Over here.
Did you monitor Mr. Kohberger's communications while he was incarcerated? And did he say anything that was helpful or gave you any insight as to why he did this?
Yeah, we did monitor it, both while he was housed in Latah County and then once he was moved down to Ada County. We have hundreds, thousands of hours of monitoring that was done, but there was nothing of evidentiary value that was gained from any of it.
Will you be releasing those conversations?
That's a good question.
It's my understanding that the jail will not be releasing things that involve personal conversations with third parties. That ultimately would be a decision because the recordings are the possession of the two correctional facilities or detention facilities. But I'm pretty certain the Latah County Sheriff's Office policy does not allow for that, and I would guess Ada County is similar. You can ask them.
Back here.
Thank you. Greg Fisher with CBS News 48 Hours. Was there any evidence that Kohberger was following the social media of any of the victims?
So, trust us, we wanted that to be the case. We've looked for a link, and we have not found one. Not one.
Yeah, through the entire investigation, I think that's something that we need, that you want, is to help to understand this and say, well, what's the connection? What was the link? And so we had every resource possible, and we worked that tirelessly, both from everything from his side, but all the victims and all the members of the House from their side. So we have never, to this date, found a single connection between him and any of the four victims or the two surviving roommates.
Michael Ruiz from Fox News Digital. My question is for the investigators. You guys are going through this case. You've got a lot of evidence about his background, his education, his training. You said earlier you couldn't identify a reason the house was targeted. Do you have a motive for this?
We don't.
Nope.
Lauren Patterson, Northwest Public Broadcasting. This question's for Anthony Gallagher, actually. I remember when Anthony was a geek cop assigned to talk to us at the very beginning when all of this happened, and now you're running the show. So I wanted to ask, as a community member, has this case shaped and changed how you're policing in Moscow?
It's changed everyone involved. How could it not? It was a devastating tragedy to our community, and our police department is a part of that community, and it was very difficult for us as well. So, this is just one of those things that will not define us, but it is certainly a part of our history that we will never forget. Yes.
Rebecca Finn, Associated Press. The perhaps unprecedented level of interest in a court case like this in Idaho was matched by an extremely high level of secrecy within the case. The Gonzalez family has said that they're desperate for answers about what happened to their daughter. Do you anticipate most of the court documents being unsealed, or are there things that you will specifically request remain sealed?
As far as the court documents, Judge Hippler has told us that he is going to work with the attorneys to go through every sealed document. Probably most of the documents were sealed for the purpose of protecting against tainting a jury pool. And those documents I would expect would become unsealed. Requests for discovery, various things like that. There are also documents in there that contain very personal, private information regarding victims and families. I expect those likely will not be released under Idaho's protections against what the law calls unwarranted invasions of personal privacy. I realize that can be frustrating for folks who want to be able to explore this thoroughly, but we have to balance, and the law balances, the privacy of the people who have suffered, including the victims who are dead, with giving the public as much information as we responsibly can.
I'm just wondering, did the lack of knowing the reason or the motive concern you in prepping for trial? Because juries tend to want to explore the motive or reason for a crime. And also, how do you as investigators and attorneys grapple with that? Because if you can't rationalize something irrational, then how do you continue knowing that maybe you won't get an answer?
Well, I tell you, from an investigator standpoint, we already know and realize we often don't get to know that. We want it. We all do. We naturally want that. But the reality is, it's not something that we have to have or that we get. And the reality also is that oftentimes those very things that you're asking about, they're only known to one person. It's the person that commits those crimes. And I think that's probably what we have here.
And I would add that going through this whole investigation, I'd probably say it's easier than it was for Bill's offices. We were focused on a task. We had a task to do, and it was discovering evidence and interviewing folks and that sort of thing. So the motive necessarily doesn't play a part in that, right? Obviously it can, but we were just focused on getting the job done in the correct way as best we could. So.
And from the prosecutor's point of view, yeah, certainly lack of a clear motive is something that we think about and consider as we're preparing for trial, because we're going to have a jury of 12, ordinary, honest citizens there who are wanting to figure this thing out. But we also, and I've also found that juries tend to follow the law. And even jurors who come in with strong feelings, they tend to follow the law that the judge gives. And there is no element of motive in Idaho law for murder.
So now that the gag order has been lifted, we are hearing for the first time some details about the evidence in this case from the two lead investigators, as well as the Latah County prosecutor, Bill Thompson, who you're seeing there. We've learned that they don't know who Kohberger was trying to target. They believe the house was targeted, but they don't know who. And they tried to look for the murder weapon, but have not been able to find it. We were talking during this press conference where you were saying that the the prosecutor could have, as part of this plea bargain, required Kohberger to give some kind of statement, required him to answer some questions. He obviously didn't. Do you think he should have?
I do. I salute the public service, and I don't like to second guess public servants. But here I really do question why that was not part of the plea bargain. Mm-hmm. So you can definitely require, depending on the scope of the plea statement, you can require a factual allocution. And you could tell the defense attorneys, I want these areas specifically addressed. For example, where are the murder weapons? Things like that. So I understand the argument from the court, and then that was adopted by the prosecuting attorney that, well, this murderer doesn't have credibility.
Right.
Right.
He said he probably wouldn't even tell the truth, so what's the point?
Right. The point is he would provide something. You view that with skepticism, of course, but the fact is the murderer has unique knowledge about how he carried out the horror. So do you want to know that or not?
They also revealed that all of the police reports will be uploaded to a website by later this afternoon. Obviously some information redacted, but we're going to learn a lot more with these police reports, right?
That's right. It's subject to redaction and privacy concerns that the victims, you would want the victims to be protected from.
We could be learning some really gruesome details about this crime. We learned through Steve Gonzalez, Kaylee's dad, after the hearing when he came outside the courthouse to speak to the media, that Kaylee was stabbed 30 times. It's just horrific to think about that. We knew that these crimes were brutal, but to learn the details of that is really heartbreaking to hear. It sounds like the families have spent some time with the detectives and talking with them and hearing a little bit more. The judge sentenced Kohberger to 4 consecutive life sentences. He has waived his right to appeal. He likely will not appeal. And this case has come to a close. And it sounds like the families have been split on whether or not a plea agreement was a good idea. If you ask the Gonzalez family, they say justice was not served. What do you think? In this case, with the evidence, with the information that we know, was this a good decision?
So it's no surprise that victims' families are split. It reflects the split that's in our country. I believe it's 25 states have capital punishment, 25 do not. So it's not surprising. It's not surprising because on one hand, you look at what happened here and all these poor, youthful, innocent victims lost everything. We define that in our country as life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. They lost it all. Whereas what's the sentence? This person only gives up one, his liberty. So that doesn't seem proportional or commiserate. On the other hand, it's the truth that to get to closure and to recognize the realities of an appeal, potential mistrial, and all the rest, that is a fact. So you saw some of the families showing appreciation for the fact that they get closure and can finally begin their healing.
They can finally move on, whether or not they agree.